there's still time for him to say, all right, I will get out. But he doesn't show any signs of it.
Secretary Weinberger, you were credited with the military buildup which is being put to use. But there is one area which has come to a lot of criticism. We have to go to Baghdad, Secretary. We're going to Bernard Shaw in Baghdad.
This is, something is happening outside. Peter Arnett joined me here. Let's describe to our viewers what we're seeing. The skies over Baghdad have been illuminated. We're seeing bright flashes going off all over the sky. Peter?
Well, there's anti-aircraft gunfire going into the sky. We hear the sound of planes. They're coming over our hotel. However, we have not yet heard the sound of bombs landing, but there's tremendous lightning in the sky, lightning like effects. Bernie?
I have a sense, Peter, that people are shooting towards the sky, and they are not aware or cannot see what they're shooting at. This is extraordinary. The lights are still on. All the street lights in downtown Baghdad are still on. But as you look, you see trails of flashes of light going up into the air, obviously anti-aircraft fire. We're getting starbursts, seeming starbursts in the black sky. We have not heard any jet planes yet, Peter.
No plane. Now the sirens are sounding for the first time. The Iraqis have informed us.
Well, we heard Peter Arnett saying the Iraqis have informed us, and then we didn't hear anymore. This is probably just a technical glitch. They have 4 wires there that they can use, and those wires can be easily severed or pulled. It wasn't clear from that report whether this was a reaction to the real thing or was the real thing. We're with Secretary Weinberger here. Sir, you heard that?
Yes.
What's your immediate reaction?
Well, I would guess, since they haven't heard any planes at all, that they're probably shooting at what conceivably could be a false alarm. The long streams of stars, starry fire that Bernie described, is undoubtedly tracer fire going up. But if they have no targets and they're simply shooting blindly at some kind of a false alarm, that's essentially what this could sound like. It could mean that the attack has started.
Okay, I'd like to break in just to say now and repeat what we heard from Baghdad before we lost communications with Peter Arnett and our Bernard Shaw there. They were reporting from the hotel, the 14-story hotel, I believe, that our headquarters is in Baghdad, that they were seeing flashes in the sky and they were hearing loud reports as we could hear in the background. They described it as flashes like anti-aircraft fire. They also said they heard no sound of jet planes, and we assume they heard nothing that sounded like a bomb that could come from any plane. So based on what we've heard, and we can't possibly know, and we hope to get reconnected to Baghdad, but based on what we know, it's quite possible that perhaps the Iraqis were nervous, went off on an alert of some kind and started shooting in the sky, and you know how that can happen, Secretary Weinberger. Well, but this is conjecture. I must insist this is conjecture.
Indeed. There's one very interesting note that Bernie said, and that was that all of the lights were on in Baghdad, and that's very reminiscent of when our planes had to go over Tripoli in Libya. And while we achieved some tactical surprise there, all of the lights were on when the first planes came over. And it wasn't until after the attack was over that they turned off the lights. I would think that if this really were the opening of an air attack on Baghdad, that there would be some kind of sufficient advanced knowledge so that the lights would have been turned off.
Well, you can believe that all of our resources are now trying to answer that question, and Wolf Blitzer is at your old workplace, the Pentagon, right now. Wolf, what have you for us at this moment?
David, there are strong indications here at the Pentagon that this war may be beginning right now, and that the president may be going on television later this evening to explain what exactly is going on. We've been hearing these rumors now all day, no confirmation, but in the last hour or so, the activity level here at the Pentagon has clearly increased. Officials working for Defense Secretary Dick Cheney, excuse me, and others All sorts of
Wolf,
officials are clearly gearing up for something.
Wolf, let
and
me,
it looks
Wolf,
like tonight
Wolf, let
is
me
the
interrupt.
activity.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
David?
we're going back to Baghdad now because we can, and we have Peter
right now on our
Arnett.
four-wire, but we are sending to them.
Okay,
Go
hello,
ahead,
Baghdad.
John, I'm
Come in.
recording.
This
Go
is.
ahead. I can hear you and can record.
Please come in to us from Baghdad. This is David French in Washington. All right, we've lost that for the moment. Back to the Pentagon again. Wolf, you were just reporting that there is new activity level.
Hello, Atlanta. Atlanta, this is Holloman. I don't know whether you're able to hear me now or not, but I'm going to continue to talk to you as long as I can. The skies of Baghdad have been just filled up with the sounds of gunfire here tonight. There's still lights on all over Baghdad, and there are bullets being fired up into the air. You can see tracers along with other bullets going up into the air. We'll attempt to continue speaking with you as long as we can here. At this point in Baghdad, we cannot hear anything from Amman or from Atlanta, our two listening posts. We'll continue talking as long as we're able to do that, and just we have some hope that you're able to hear us, although those of us in Atlanta, or in Baghdad rather, will apparently not be able to hear back from Atlanta, at least for the time being. We'll continue. Hitting out by the airport. Okay. The Saddam International Airport, Robert. Yeah, all right. Robert Wiener, our producer, says that from the sounds of things, they are the attack, if there is an attack on Baghdad, is occurring near Saddam International Airport. We're going back over to the window now to see what we can see. There have been some sirens here tonight, but we still have seen no signs of any airplanes coming in here. All we are seeing is the Iraqi response from the ground. Many tracer rounds that you can perhaps hear the sound of bombs in the background. We're going to put our microphone out the window. I think you'll be able to hear this sound.
Fire. Certainly Secretary Weinberger would know the sound of that.
Let me see.
The night sky of Baghdad. The time here about 20 minutes until 3 in the morning. I'm getting away from the window here now as I can see more and more tracer rounds very close to our broadcasting position. I'm going to turn off the microphone for one moment in an attempt to see if we can hear Atlanta and get some response from CNN down the line.
John Holloman, this is David French in Washington. If you're hearing now, we have been copying all that you said with the activity out near Saddam International Airport. It's our desire to continue with you there as long as you are able. So, John, bring back the sound if you can. All right, we're not immediately able to pick up, to resume that sound from John Holloman's position, so we will now return to the Pentagon where Wolf Blitzer has some more for us. Wolf.
Yes, David, only moments ago, before I came into the studio here at the Pentagon, I had a chance to see two very senior Pentagon officials almost running through the halls, going up to Secretary Cheney's office. Let's go back to Baghdad and see what John Holloman is reporting in the meantime.
There's a response here as if the city were under attack. The night sky filled with a hail of bullets and from anti-aircraft guns, and off in the distance you can hear what appears to be bombs of some kind hitting the ground, or perhaps artillery shells hitting the ground. There are loud reports, and you can feel the building of this very well-built hotel shaking underneath us as the attack apparently continues. We'll continue to be here, looking out the window, telling you what we can tell you. Baghdad is still not blacked out. And hi there. Is it possible to call United States, please? All right. Okay. Thank you. We don't know. It's we got lights. We don't know. What are you looking for, Robert?
My room key. Peter? Well, I told you I was right. I told you between 2 and 3, didn't I? Nobody listened. We got it out on the floor. 5 or 10 minutes of description.
Yeah.
No, but this is nothing. Because no, it's not ending yet. No, this is what's called TNT. This is testing the teasing.
All right. Atlanta, we still don't have any idea whether you can hear us. It's Holloman again in Baghdad. We'll continue to watch. They're shooting up into the night sky. I'm going to leave our microphone in the window on the hope that you're able to hear what we have here. We're going to try to evacuate our room, but we'll let you listen in on this microphone for a short time.
So, Bernard,
Don't leave that window open. Why not? Because practically you can't see the window.
Well, I don't think we can arc light here.
Yeah. I haven't seen any goddamn well, you haven't seen boxes. I have. Hey, Robert, which direction is that? That's west, right?
Baghdad for Amman.
we've been hearing an open microphone from Baghdad, from the hotel hotel room now being left, we believe, by Bernard Shaw, Peter Arnett, John Holloman, and their support staff there. There is a bomb shelter in that hotel. We heard them report earlier today. Back to the Pentagon and Wolf Blitzer.
David, all day long we've been hearing rumors that the attack would start at night, Baghdad time, that the attack, if it did come, would try to take advantage of U.S. night fighting equipment, especially with the radar-evading stealth fighters. If, in fact, this is the real thing, and certainly from those gunshots we heard, it would appear to be the real thing, and that is backed up by indications that we're getting here in the Pentagon of stepped-up activity among the senior civilian and military staff. Let's go back to Baghdad, where John Holloman is back on the line for a moment.
Temporarily, there's one bus now on the street down below. It's moving from south to north along Rashid, the street in front of the Al-Rashid. There's no firing underway at present, as far as we can tell. No signs of any traces. And there are still lights on throughout the city of Baghdad, although, well, that's not 100% true. In fact, at this point, there are some tracer rounds that are, again, being seen going up into the air over this capital city of about 4 million people. We've heard some reports that sound like bomb blasts coming down, and that's been a few minutes ago. All right, Baghdad is beginning to be blacked out now. Large sections of the city losing its lighting, and we're going to go back to the window and look out over the city and see what we can see. There's a large oil refinery that is visible from our vantage point, and there's really, at this point, you would think that if there had been an actual attack, you'd see many things aflame, many things burning. There are no signs of that at all. We heard some sounds of what appeared to be explosions like bombs off in the distance, perhaps at Saddam International Airport, which is 10 or 15 miles from the hotel where we're located right now. But we see no sign of fire as we look out toward the west or the southwest. But we do see that lights are going out over the city as what is an apparent attack on the city of Baghdad continues. I'll once again put our microphone in the window so that if you're able to hear us, you'll be able to hear the sounds on the outside.
Set up, guys. What's the plan here? Well, we could mark that up.
Sounds of Baghdad for a moment, or perhaps we can have them lightly in the background as we go to the White House and Charles Bierbauer. Charles, your perspective there.
David, very little that I can tell you except that a group of reporters were standing outside White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater's office watching the television as those reports came across from Baghdad. We all listened to the reports that we were getting from Bernie and John. Mr. Fitzwater was inside his office, the door closed, watching the same reports. He emerged from his office a few minutes later, heading for the Oval Office. He is in there now with the president, one would have to presume. All Mr. Fitzwater would say is, I'll tell you as soon as I can. We have had no indication, I must emphasize, no indication from here that any action is as yet underway, no explanation from here as to just what it is that is going on in Baghdad at this point. David, that is all I can tell you right now.
All right, thank you, Charles. We'll go back to Wolf at the Pentagon for something more. Wolf.
David, all day long there have been indications as well that the U.S. Air Force was trying to see exactly how far it could go in trying perhaps to provoke the Iraqis to taking the first shot. There are indications, though, that if this is the real thing, it's part of the U.S. game plan because it's now Thursday morning in Baghdad, and because of Muslim sensitivities, there was a reluctance to begin this war on Friday, which is the holy day of the week for Muslims. And if it is starting tonight, and let me caution everyone that we do not have final confirmation, we only have strong indications here at the Pentagon that there's all sorts of unusual activities. But let's go back to David French and see what else we can hear from Baghdad.
Wolf, we can still hear John Holloman in Baghdad, and we'll go listen in. He can't hear me, but we can hear him. All right, we're told he can.
David, a miracle has happened. We are now able to hear you as well. My colleague Peter Arnett and I are here at our CNN Baghdad Bureau. What I'm going to do is turn the microphone on continuous transmit for a minute. Peter and I are going to go to the window where there has been an attack here in Baghdad in the past 15 or 20 minutes. We'll open the window, let you hear some of the sounds if there are any, and we'll describe for you what has happened in Baghdad in the past 15 or 20 minutes. Just a second for us to flip the switch. And you have no idea, David French, how nice it is to hear your voice on this remarkable night. Peter, let's tell our viewers what's happened here. You've had a lot of experience with being under attack, of course, from your days in Vietnam and other places.
Well, okay, John, what seemed to have happened about 20 minutes ago, the anti-aircraft weapons in the city center where we are living around the government buildings erupted in fire. There must have been 200 guns firing into the sky. We did not see any aircraft around, but we did hear the alarm sirens. About 2 minutes after that, there were loud explosions, obviously bombing in at least 3 parts of the outskirts of the city. We have no idea what those targets were, but they were in the direction of the airport and some military barracks. John?
All right, Peter, I'm going to go to the window again so our viewers can stay as much in touch with this situation as possible. I've just seen an emergency blue flashing light on a vehicle down on the streets below. You can hear what I can hear, I imagine, and what we both hear is more of that eerie silence we were talking about before this attack began. On the main drag of Baghdad, we just saw one vehicle go by. There was a bus that went by about 10 minutes ago. The skies here were filled with tracer bullets about 10 or 15 minutes ago, just before we heard all these explosions. Right now, a big portion of the city, the portion where we are, has been blacked out. We've lost electricity. Now off to the south of our position, we can see some more tracer rounds going up into the sky over some of the main downtown Baghdad buildings in the direction, generally, Peter, of the presidential palace.
It is in the direction of the presidential palace, but the palace is barely a mile from here, as are the main communication centers and the bombing has not come in this far yet. The attack did begin about 2:30 a.m. our time. The skies are clear. There's stars, but the city was deathly quiet all day. Traffic has been dwindling, and shops were closed, and people have been moving out. Now, here in the hotel, the Al Rashid Hotel where we are, there was some indication. Earlier this evening, some of our colleagues received calls from friends who said tonight may be the night
Peter?
for the multinational force to begin its strike.
Peter Arnett?
Threatened strike against Iraq, and tonight it has come. John?
That's right, Peter. I think it would be good for those of us in Baghdad to turn off our microphone for just a moment. We have our CNN colleagues, of course, all over the world. Perhaps David French, some of our colleagues in other locations around the world may be able to tell us as much about what they know about this potential attack as we can tell looking out our window. Let us hear from you for a moment.
Well, John, let me ask you first if all of our crew there, you and all are well. Is everything all right with you aside from what's going on outside?
We're a little excited, David, as I'm sure is obvious, but yes, we've checked in with virtually all of the CNN crew. We've done a head count. Virtually all of our people are here. Bernie Shaw checked in with us a few minutes ago. We don't know where he is right now, but the hotel has not been hit as far as we can tell. It's intact. And all of us seem to be okay. Chris Manich, our editor's got a cold. And you can probably hear her coughing in the background. But anyway, Peter's got some more thoughts, David.
Right, we have a report
the speculation here, David, and it's not particularly well-informed speculation, is that this early strike was basically aimed at seeking out Iraqi radar sites, and we expect much more to come down on us very soon. The attack lasted about 10 minutes. As I said, we are some distance from it. We did not see the explosions, but we heard the explosions very loud, and we did see traces going into the sky. John?
I'd like to interrupt, if I may. John, can you still hear me?
Dave, you asked us if we were okay. We are. What have you heard from the Pentagon or from other sources in Saudi Arabia about this attack?
John, I think you might have thrown it to me. I couldn't tell, but if you did, we have a radio pool report in from John Bascom. He's reporting that a squadron of F-15 fighter bombers has taken off from a base in central Saudi Arabia. The fighters, designed for long-range bombing at night, were completely loaded with bombs, according to this report, with missiles and with 20-millimeter guns. That report is from pool reporter John Bascom in Saudi Arabia. Do we have anything else imminent from our Baghdad line at the moment? Right, if not,
what we can do, yes, David, of course, is you know how it is at CNN correspondents like Arnett and Holloman and Bernard Shaw. If we can find him again, we can talk and we can describe what we see for long periods of time, and we're certainly willing to do that for as long as it's possible. I'm looking out the window of our hotel now. As I look to the south, I see that much of the city has been blacked out, but in a distance of 5 miles away, I suppose I can see a ring of lights off on the horizon. As I look out to the west and the southwest from my position, I can see, again, much of the city blacked out. There are no lights on the major telecommunications center in Baghdad, but it is still intact. It is still standing. As I look off more to the southwest, I can see a large section of the city that has not been blacked out. There is one broadcasting tower, radio or television, that still has the red lights up its 250-foot tower. And as I'm going to lean out the window a little bit more now to look more directly to the south to see what I can see in that direction. And I see one huge government housing complex, many apartments, which I don't see many lights in the windows of the apartments, but they have had the blackout siren on. And the situation there is that that apartment continues to be there. Peter Arnett has been looking out another window. Peter?
I was looking out the window earlier, John, and
Peter, look over here.
Bernard Shaw and I were watching what basically we are starting to see now. There is the sky is lighting up, I guess, to the south with anti-aircraft fire. Some as bright red, other as flashes of yellow light. What seems clear is that the city is well defended with anti-aircraft fire, and we can only presume that because they have started up again with considerable rapidity, that there is another attack coming in. John?
Yeah, Peter, we can't hear anything. This is eerie. But it looks like a 4th of July display at the Washington Monument. The sky is just brightly lighted with all these tracer rounds. Some are red, some are white. We can see explosions, air burst explosions from these weapons. Oh, now there's a huge fire that we've just seen that is due west of our position. And we just heard, whoa, holy cow. That was a large airburst that we saw. It was filling the sky with
and I think, John, that airburst took out the telecommunications. Yeah. Now you may hear the bombs now. If you're still with us, you can hear the bombs now. They are hitting the center of this city. We're crouched behind a window in here. We're about 3 miles from where the center of action at this point seems to be. The anti-aircraft is erupting again. We've seen about 4 bomb flashes. I guess the planes are circling and coming back and eventually for more targets. John?
All right, Peter, I believe we just did see a blast at the main telecommunications center, which may be the center that controls our access to you over this particular circuit. I'm going to ask if you can still hear us in Atlanta and on CNN. Are you still able to hear us?
John, we do still hear you. Continue. We do hear you.
All right, Dave, thank you. You know, when you see your main communications link to the outside world hit with a bomb, you have to keep checking in to make sure we're getting out. But we'll go back to the window so you can at least hear these sounds. We have a CNN cameraman, Mark Biello, by the way, is taking pictures of this, and as soon as we're able to establish a video link to you, which we're sure won't be anytime soon, but will be hours from now, we'll be able to show you the pictures that we're talking about right now. But it really is a sky filled with the bright red and white flashes from the anti-aircraft fire here around Baghdad.
John, U.S. armed forces in Saudi Arabia have now confirmed that war has begun in Baghdad. I suppose that information may be superfluous to you. You're watching it. We'll go back to you.
At that time, but it was similar, but it was much more minimal than this. As I said earlier, Baghdad is obviously a very well-defended city. Now, the anti-aircraft fire has slowed down again. What we saw are about 5 bombs dropped in the center of the government part of the city. The gunfire is quietening down again, and the skies are quiet. John?
All right, Peter, and David back in Washington, as we continue to try to describe this for you as best we can. It's good to have a colleague like Peter Arnett to help out, I'll tell you that. My experience in being under attack is very limited, I'm proud to say. But I think by the time the sun comes up tomorrow, my experience will be much improved in this regard. Our cameraman, Mark Biello, has just come to the window. Mark, you've been taking pictures of all this. What does it look like through your viewfinder?
Basically, this is the second wave of many, I think, to come. On the other side of the hotel, we have some of the buildings that have incredible damage and also a lot of anti-aircraft batteries there.
Yeah.
A lot of action on the other side.
Okay, our microphone cable is long enough for us to go over there, David. If we get a chance to get away from where we are right now, which seems pretty interesting to watch from a reporter's point of view, we might go over to the other side of the building. As we say, we're looking out toward the west side of downtown Baghdad, where these airbursts continue. Peter, you want to run over to the other side, or and just come back and give me a report, see if we should be over there or over here? Peter Arnett's going to go over to the east side of the hotel and look out there to see what he can see. There's still huge airbursts visible here. We've seen 2 major explosions, one near the major telecommunications center, another one at a location that's not that major communications center, but somewhere else in downtown Baghdad. It's just we don't know what might have been where that bomb hit, but it did appear there was a bomb. The sky continues to be filled with tracers as the anti-aircraft weapons continue to fire. This whole event started, well, I'm trying to tell what time it is, about 35 minutes ago, about 2:30 Baghdad time. Another huge, loud burst from the ground, more tracers going up into the air over the city, and there's a lot of fire going up, and as I say, these bombs continue to come down occasionally on the ground here. There's no sign that any of the aircraft that are involved in this, not from Iraq but from the Allied forces, have suffered any damage. We've seen no sign that any of them have been hit. Peter?
Well, John, it's just the same to the east as to the west. There is a bomb every few minutes. There's lots of anti-aircraft fire going up. I don't know the caliber, some large, some small. It's firing in all directions. I don't know how well directed it is. We haven't seen any hits on any aircraft. In fact, we've hardly heard the aircraft. They're not coming in low tonight. They're bombing, obviously, from quite a height. They're not coming down to meet this anti-aircraft fire, and it's you don't have any of those swooping dive bomb attacks. This seems to be more of a strategic approach.
Peter, in your career, have you ever experienced this sort of a thing on a live broadcast before?
The only equivalent was in Beirut in 1982 when the Israelis were bombing parts of West Beirut, that the targets were much smaller, it was much more predictable. We have no idea here the extent of what this U.S. multinational force rating will be. We don't know how much of the city of Baghdad has been targeted. We can say now that nothing has landed very near the hotel.
Oh, that sounded like a rocket.
Even though there's lots of noise, but the rocket, I think, was going up and not coming at us, John.
Peter, it's good to have you here, as I've said before. I'm going to check in with Atlanta now with CNN headquarters and see what they can tell us.
John and Peter, we're going to the White House for just a minute. Presidential spokesman Marlin Fitzwater is about to address the nation and therefore the world. He's preparing now to appear at the White House press room, and we're there for him. And we'll be right back to you as soon as we can. You can see the reporters gathered, some prepared to go live. And Marlin Fitzwater is about to come in and make history with his announcement. We've already heard the reports from Baghdad. Here's Marlin Fitzwater.
I have a statement by the President of the United States. The liberation of Kuwait has begun. In conjunction with the forces of our coalition partners, the United States has moved under the code name Operation Desert Storm to enforce the mandates of the United Nations Security Council. As of 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Operation Desert Storm forces were engaging targets in Kuwait and Iraq. President Bush will address the nation at 9 o'clock p.m. tonight from the Oval Office. I'll try to get you more as soon as we can. Thank you very much.
All right, Marlin Fitzwater not taking any questions. The President of the United States will address the nation in a little less than 2 hours from now at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going back to the wire that we have to Baghdad. John Holloman is there, Bernard Shaw is there, Peter Arnett, and CNN staffers.
Okay, Peter, we're back.
Yes, John, it's clear now that even in the darkness, the thick walls of black smoke are rising from the city, from government buildings, barely a mile and a half away. The bombing is intensifying now, and the explosions are coming closer to this part of town. There's lots of targets here that the U.S. may be interested in terms of communication centers, presidential palace, and other matters. The sky is illuminated now by very large flashes of explosions that I really don't know what they are.
Yeah, well, that's true, Peter, and now the entire city of Baghdad has been blacked out. All the lights except on the very outer periphery of the city have been blacked out. Peter, why don't we see if we can make that light go out? If we have to smash it, let's do it. Let's get that light out. There's one light on in our room, which makes us more visible than we might like to be as we report. So that was a bomb that came down fairly near our hotel. We don't know how near, but you can feel it shaking the building a little bit as it came down. There's still more tracer fire. Yeah, all right. Peter says it's not a major problem, so I bow to his experience. The attack continues, of course. Peter Arnett and I were able to hear Marlin Fitzwater's statement announcing the beginning of the attack, and there's a very bright flash at a refinery building. It appeared that there were several explosions at once near a refinery. I'm going to guess this refinery is 5 or so miles away, but there's much activity on the ground there.
Yeah, what we are seeing, John, is a series of explosions, probably 8 to 10 sharp white explosions that illuminated the towers, and obviously they're aimed at destroying that particular refinery, one of several around Baghdad, and seen as a strategic target by the multinational forces. They are continuing to bomb that particular structure, a very large refinery with gray towers that is illuminated now with frequent explosions as the bombs land. John?
That's right, Peter. It's obvious that the people who are doing the attack here have a very very tight method involved. I mean, we can tell that they know what they're doing by the way the attack is going on. We saw a series of attacks due west of the city from our vantage point, and now we're seeing a lot of activity in the area of this refinery. One thing after another, one bomb apparently coming down in the area of this refinery. It is not on fire. Oh, now there's something on fire. That was an explosion fairly near our location at near a mosque in downtown. We could sort of feel the reports from that. Another refinery closer to our hotel, which is under attack. This one is in the close vicinity of the presidential palace here in Baghdad. The anti-aircraft guns near our hotel are now pointing their fire almost straight up. Peter?
I think what is most interesting to me, John, is that these bombs seem right on target. During the Vietnam War, there was a major problem with bombing targets in North Vietnam. Many bridges survived for years. Tonight, every bomb we've seen land seems to have hit something. They hit the refinery directly. They hit a communications tower directly. They have these laser-directed, the guided bomb systems now, which are certainly proving very effective here tonight, or they seem to be proving effective here tonight.
That's right. If our colleagues in Atlanta could find some photographs from Iraqi television in years past of the major military day parade, the major parade ground where they do military parades, is directly in front of us now, and some of the bombing has occurred fairly near that location. Peter's going to go to the east side of the hotel and see what we can report there at this point, and we'll continue to look out the window. There's another, seems to be a lull in the activity now, and as we continue to look out the window, we hear more reports from an area we can't really see any activity, but we can continue to hear the sound of the incoming bombs in the early morning hours today. And as we look, there's a kind of a pallor of smoke over the city of Baghdad now from all the bombing that has taken place so far. No way to keep score on how many of these bombs have come down. The anti-aircraft fire is pretty well stopped at this instant, and you can continue to hear an occasional round go off in the background. Okay, the entire city has now gone black. There were some areas of Baghdad that still had some light on the west side, but except for the emergency power here at our hotel, the city is almost in total blackness now. Peter?
Well, the anti-aircraft fire has died down. It seems to me that there's been at least 3 waves of aircraft here so far. And while we can't see activity, we can hear bombs landing possibly to the north of our hotel. We cannot see it. Around this government center where we are living, the anti-aircraft fire has stopped. But as I said, further out in the city, out in the outskirts of the city, there seems to be more explosions taking place, multiple explosions.
Yeah. Peter, have you been to the other side of the hotel? Is it the same over there as it is over here?
Indeed, it's quiet over there, too, but I think it's probably just a lull if President Bush follows through with his threats to attempt to prove to Saddam Hussein that he should leave Kuwait.
All right, we're going to check in with our other colleagues around the network now. David will give you a chance to come in with anything extra that you've got.
We'd like to go now to Saudi Arabia, where Charles Jaco is standing by, the kickoff point for what the president has named Operation Desert Storm. Charles Jaco, please. Charles, can you hear me? This is David French.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can, David.
Charles, we're ready for your report, and you're on.
All right, there was a momentary lapse. I apologize. What I can give you now is this pool report from Central Saudi Arabia, and let me just read it from you. It was filed by the Associated Press and the Chicago Tribune. The war with Iraq began early Tuesday morning as a squadron of U.S. fighter bombers took off from the largest U.S. air base in Central Saudi Arabia. They quote an Air Force Colonel Ray Davies as saying, quote, "This is history in the making." He said he watched a group of somber pilots board their aircraft, taxi down the runway, and take off. This was apparently a squadron of fully loaded U.S. F-15 fighter bombers that took off. There's obviously a great deal more firepower than that involved in this attack. All we can say is that earlier this evening, we did see several F-15s, afterburners on, arcing into the night sky, heading north toward Kuwait from here. It did not seem to be unusual because almost every day since this crisis began, there have been hundreds of flights a day in and out of this area that apparently was part of this attack that's taking place. According to the pool report that I'm again reading from, the pilots took off at approximately 12:50 a.m. Saudi Arabia time. That was approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes ago. All we can say right now is that the military here where we are in Saudi Arabia has no further information. They say all briefings will probably come from Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. But as we said right now, according to this wire report, the war with Iraq has apparently started. David?
Okay, Charles, thank you very much for that report. As we heard from the White House, the liberation of Kuwait, in the words of the White House, has begun with Operation Desert Storm. We're going now back to Baghdad, where we have John Holloman and the others.
Thank you, David. We've done a little housekeeping here. We've checked in with all of our CNN crew members, wanted to assure all our loved ones that we are all okay. CNN's Bernie Shaw has gone to a lower floor of the hotel. We're up pretty high, so we can get a bit better vantage point, but as several of our colleagues have told us, it might be a little safer, a little lower down in the hotel. But we like the view here. It's very quiet outside right now. There are a few cars speeding down the main drag in Baghdad in front of our hotel, but there's no more anti-aircraft fire. There appear to be, well, there was one little explosion that just occurred. Peter?
John, I was just thinking, we've been waiting for this to happen since the deadline on the UN ultimatum passed at 8 o'clock yesterday morning in Baghdad. And certainly as the day progressed, it was clear here that the authorities seemed to be preparing for some kind of action. I'm sure they didn't have any kind of advance word, but as I speak to you, the anti-aircraft fire has started up again, and there is another wave of planes presumably coming in. We have yet to see the bombs fall, but it's the same pattern of the previous at least 3 raids that we have witnessed. John?
All right, the anti-aircraft fire is now going toward the south. We're looking out to the west, and we see the tracer bullets going to the south, and we don't see any signs of approaching planes. The planes might be high, but the tracer bullets are still going up into the sky, and there's no sign of anything coming down from the sky right now, which for those of us in Baghdad is offering some comfort. But we've seen these bombs come down before, and so the situation is that the attack on Baghdad continues, and we'll continue to provide you with what coverage we can. You can hear the sounds of the anti-aircraft guns in the background as I look out the window here and continue to just describe what I see. It's very dark in Baghdad now. Most of the lights in downtown are out. The sounds that you hear are the sounds of the Iraqi anti-aircraft guns pointed skyward. We don't have any indication at all that these anti-aircraft guns have had much success. Certainly no signs of airplanes in any danger at all. And from what Peter has been able to determine from his experience in this, it appears that the planes are so high that the anti-aircraft fire can't get to them. And that's just something more to report to you tonight. There are a couple of trucks on the street now. We only heard one siren in downtown Baghdad.
At the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning. Bernard Shaw joins us now. Bernie, you and I have a rule from the days that we both anchored. You always warned me, don't ever go on television out of breath. I'll give you another moment to catch your breath.
Well, the reason why I'm winded is that I've just come from the bomb shelter, checking on the people here in the hotel and checking on the employees and everybody else and making certain where it is we should go.
Yeah. How does it look down there? Does it look like there's a place of safety if we need it down there?
Yes, it's very appreciated. Everyone is calm down there. The hotel officials are going about their business in a very orderly manner. No one is being allowed in the lobby, of course, because that's like walking a gauntlet of glass.
Oh, really? There's a lot of broken glass there?
No, I don't mean that it's broken, but if anything happens, if a bomb goes off near the hotel, you'll have shards of glass, and it would be very, very dangerous.
Yeah. I was just thinking, Bernie, what does it say for the planes that the hotel has the bulletproof windows? Maybe they're bulletproof, but they won't survive an explosion from some of the ordnance that they're putting down on this city tonight.
Absolutely. Wherever you are following CNN's coverage of this, our colleagues in Washington and our colleagues in Saudi Arabia obviously know a lot more than we know, but we are on the receiving end of it. The skies are dark, and it is relatively quiet.
And every time you get a break, this is an interesting psychological feeling. That's a call that we probably tried to place to our headquarters a few minutes ago. We'll see. Bernie Shaw is on that phone now, and we'll see if it's got some information for us or if it's something else. Bernie, is that something our viewers need to know about?
No, it's something that we need to know about. The hotel switchboard is just urged us to leave our rooms, and I said right away to the boys.
Yeah, all right. Let's go ahead, Peter.
Just to locate us.
Bernie, Peter, and John will be back to you as soon as we can. We're going now to Saudi Arabia and Charles Jaco. Charles, are you still hearing me? Charles
Yes,
Jaco is just
the air raid sirens are just now going off here near these U.S. bases in Saudi Arabia. We've sent the entire camera crews inside right now. We're all preparing to put on our gas masks, as we've been told. There are sounds of planes overhead. We don't know whose planes there are, but air raid sirens are going off insistently. There are military convoys on both sides of me. We're being told to get off this platform and get inside into the air raid shelter immediately. But right now, everyone's been training for this, and it looks like we may have to.
All right, Charles Jaco, that doesn't mean that he is in any imminent danger. Of course, we can't know that. He does have a place of shelter to which to go, and that's where we believe he is going. He is well equipped and cared for. We're going now back to Baghdad and our reporters at the Rashid Hotel. Baghdad,
Yes,
please come in.
Peter Arnett reporting. I'd just like to give you a locator where we are. We're in the Al Rashid Hotel. It's a 14-story hotel. We're on the 9th floor. They say the windows are bulletproof. We're not sure about that, but it does give a great ringside view of what's been happening here this evening. The skies have been calm here for the past 10 minutes. There were at least 4 waves of bombers came in. They bombed an oil refinery, at least one. They seem to be bombing near the airport. There are other military installations it seems were hit. We saw some explosions within a mile of us, maybe a communications center. But the skies are indeed calm right now. We don't know if this particular stage is over. I have Bernie Shaw here again. Bernie?
And Peter, I'm trying to see. Do you know what happened to our set of binoculars? I want to see if we can establish the outline of the TV tower from which we've transmitted all our reports. John, can you see it?
Yeah, let me go back to the window, Bernie. The tower is now dark. We saw it lighted, I guess, 10 or 15 minutes ago, and it's the fact that it's dark. I mean, I think Bernie, if that tower had been hit by now, we would have seen the explosion at the tower. I believe it's probably still intact. We did see an explosion at what appeared to be an airburst almost near the main telecommunications center in downtown Baghdad. But the fact that we're still able to communicate with our viewers indicates, because the wires that we are talking to you on, we believe, go through that communication center, indicate that at least some of that center is still available, still intact.
I just want to add one thing to everybody, that we are safe, relatively speaking, Peter, and there is no sense of an immediate threat to our lives. Do you concur with that?
I would concur to that. We are safe here. There has not been an explosion with a mile or two of us. We are some distance from important government targets, and as far as I'm concerned, I've been through a few of these in the past. I think we're safe enough here for the time being. Within a minute, we can get to a shelter downstairs. I'd like to make one comment. It was said that when the U.S. air attack started, all communications would be totally blanked out. We presumed that we wouldn't be able to talk to you like this, but whatever that plan was, or whatever that proposal was or system was, it doesn't seem to have worked, because we still have communications with you. John?
I'm wondering why the hotel chooses to turn on all these fluorescent lights downstairs in the garden. My goodness.
I think, Bernie, they don't have anybody willing to go out there and turn them off. I think that's what it is. The hotel has emergency power, and when the main electricity goes off, as it did to our broadcasting system here, we could.
This tracer fire here is going very high in the sky over the hotel. Peter, I've had a sense all along during the initial raid and then the second run and the third, I had a sense that the anti-aircraft gunners were shooting at what they could not see.
Well, I commented earlier that I think these planes are flying very high. It's basically strategic bombing. That's why I'm not really concerned about the lights in the garden. I think these planes coming in have designated targets. They're locked onto them. The fact that they have been so successful, it seems, with their bombs indicates that they have prearranged targets, and I hope that one of them is not the Al Rashid Hotel.
We all certainly hope that. We had been told by some officials several weeks ago that for some of the aerial assaults that the United States and the coalition forces were planning, our hotel, because it is a major, tall, very recognizable building, was a point that the planes would come to before they turned in one direction or another. We don't know if that's true or not, but that's what some of our colleagues were told, and we've seen no signs of any airplanes around the hotel. Let me describe for you what I see out the window now. More tracer fire from the anti-aircraft guns. Another entire section of Baghdad went dark for about 2 seconds just now, and then the lights came back on, I guess, as emergency generators were turned on, or as whatever caused the lights to go out was restored. And we continue to see the tracer fire, and off in the distance we can continue to hear what may be the sound of bombs coming down, but there are no very noticeable explosions at our position. We're not being rocked and rolled by anything here by any means at the present time. Yeah, Bernie?
John, it occurs to me that this attack is going to just shake the psyches of the Baghdadis here. This is unprecedented, and I'm really anxious for daybreak to come so that we can get out and see what has been wrought here.
All right. Daybreak is only 4 hours away, and if we make it that long, we'll certainly be able to do that. I'll tell you, in my conversations, Bernie, with the people of Baghdad, they've always said, oh, we had all these rockets come in the Iran-Iraq war, and I kept telling the people who I spoke with, well, you know, the American and the coalition forces have bombs much stronger than the ones that came during the Iran-Iraq war. Oh, no, we'll be all right, they say. I have a feeling that when dawn breaks here in Baghdad, the Iraqis are going to have a whole different level of feeling and potential respect for the Allied forces. Let's check in with Atlanta just for a moment to see if they can give us some more information from any of their outposts around the world. Dave French in Washington, CNN colleagues around the network, what can you tell us?
Well, John, thank you. This is David French in Washington. The President is going to address the nation at 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be carrying that live. There will be followed by a briefing. Secretary of Defense Cheney with Joint Chiefs Man Colin Powell, General Powell, right after the President speaks. We're going now to a report from Riyadh, where our John Sweeney is waiting. Please come in.
In Riyadh, the official military information bureau is still closed. However, as of a few minutes ago, the air raid sirens in the Saudi capital went off. They're still going off at this time. We have no visual indication that any incoming artillery or missiles have arrived or indeed are on the way, but we can report that the air raid sirens are going off. The military, as I say, has been silent. About 2 hours ago, we heard a huge noise, and it was confirmed that 4 KC-135 super tankers had left the airbase. These are the planes, of course, that refuel other fighter planes and bombers, American fighter and bomber planes, over the area. So they're in the air. They also could be deployed to refuel the B-52s, which presumably could be coming from Diego Garcia, the island of Diego Garcia, although we don't know that.
John Sweeney, thank you. We're moving on now. We also heard from Charles Jaco at his point in Saudi Arabia at an undisclosed air base that there was an air raid underway and he was being taken to shelter. Richard Blystone is in Jerusalem now. Richard. Richard Blystone is standing by in Jerusalem. Probably a little difficult to hear. Richard, please come in.
I hear you fine, David. The most violent day, they say, in the history of warfare is almost an hour old, and most of Israel, I can say confidently, doesn't know anything about it. It's 2:30 in the morning here, and the streets are unnaturally quiet. The Israeli government, of course, does know about it. The Prime Minister says he has been informed. The military will be making a statement very soon. There is no sign whatever that Iraq has intends or is making good on its threat that if war breaks out, it will send missiles and or bombers against Israel. As I ran down here about a half an hour ago from my hotel to make this report, there was almost nothing moving in the streets, a couple of police cars with blue lights flashing. The radio here now is broadcasting CNN live. The Foreign Ministry also is watching CNN. A lot of people now are getting their news from CNN.
Thank you very much, Richard. And because the diplomats are there watching, and of course we want to know too, we're going to New York at the UN, where Jeannie Mose is standing by and has been copying all that we've had to say. Jeannie.
The Secretary General of the United Nations is up in his office right now watching TV. We're told 2 of his aides just went up to see him, and they speculated that perhaps the United States might ask for a meeting of the Security Council to brief and inform the members of what was going on, although that has not been requested yet. We're not sure whether it will be or not. It would be customary in this kind of situation, but I would not expect the Council to be doing anything much, because basically this action was authorized by the the UN Security Council when it passed a resolution saying that countries could use all necessary means if Iraq didn't get out of Kuwait by the 15th. So here at the UN now, most of the ambassadors have left. They are not here at the moment, but the Secretary General is up in his office, and perhaps the ambassadors will gather later.
Thank you, Jeannie Most. At the United Nations, the place from which the edicts were issued that caused tonight's operation, Operation Desert Storm. John Holloman in Baghdad.
Something has changed, David. All the lights in the city of Baghdad are now out, from everything we can tell. My colleague Bernie Shaw is with me as we look out on this now dark city. It's absolutely pitch black.
And even though it's pitch black, for some curious reason, the emergency lights are working here at the hotel. But I can definitely see smoke. Yeah,
there's see that flicker of light out there. Yeah, there's a pallor of smoke over the whole city, Bernie. There were several explosions, pretty big explosions, maybe 5 or 10 miles away from where we were standing a little bit earlier this evening in the attack. And there's been a lot of smoke from that. And also, don't forget that early morning fog that we were talking about early this morning, it's about the time for that fog to begin to roll in again. So,
well, I know the people here on the ground are praying for fog. It was very thick. Our charter couldn't come in yesterday morning, and I know they must be praying for fog. I want to go back to a description. When this first happened, when this burst upon us, I was trying to come up on the air. I'm told that we did get out. To describe for you, ladies and gentlemen, what that looked like against a canopy of a black sky. It was like the fireworks finale on the 4th of July at the base of the Washington Monument. Peter, you're chuckling, but that to me is not an exaggeration.
I'm chuckling with nervousness, Bernie, not with derision. You made a comment a little earlier about the fog. I don't think the fog is going to help Baghdad. You mentioned earlier it's strategic bombing. These American planes know exactly where they're going and what they're going to hit. And fog isn't going to help anyone if they're in those gun sites or in those bomb sites.
I want to say for the record, the White House made every effort to warn journalists on the ground here that danger was imminent. You could not expect the President of the United States to say, I'm going to do thus and so at a time certain. So we appreciate the warnings we received from the White House. We're safe. I don't know whether the airport here has been knocked out. We'll find out in the morning. I was awaiting a charter to take me out of here along with some of our CNN colleagues, but for now we're hunkering down, and we'll see what daybreak brings. John?
Yeah, I'm looking out the window and can again see some flickers of light off on the horizon to the west of Baghdad, maybe 10, 15 miles away. I have my head in the window. I'm looking out over the street now. There are a couple of vehicles down there on the streets below that have bright lights attached to them. And it may be that the Iraqi authorities on the ground are looking around trying to do a little damage assessment. It's a cool night. It's probably 40, 45 degrees.
While you're reporting, I just want to pull your head out of that window.
Bernie, you're a good friend. The best way to see, though, is to look. And as I do look, I'll try to keep my head as far down as I can. All my friends have been giving me advice for months. When you go back to Baghdad, keep your head down. I'm trying to do that. There's a sound outside now. It might be a motorcycle or it might be a helicopter. I can't tell. Maybe even a truck. A truck. Yeah, a truck. And it's down on the road below. Maybe the July the 14th bridge that goes across in the area where the United States Embassy was before the embassy was shut down here.
You know, that fellow the driver of that truck must know something we don't know, because I damn sure wouldn't be on the road right now.
I'm not real happy to be in this hotel, Bernie, but we're here. And let's do this. There's still a few lights on the streets below. There are obviously some government vehicles down there doing some damage assessment, but the skies over Baghdad are quiet now. And, Bernie, maybe very soon we should check back with our colleagues and see what else they can tell us about what's going on.
Before we cut away from Baghdad, I just want to say, if you were just joining CNN anywhere in the world, we are reporting on the third, was it the third wave, Peter Arnett?
Probably 4 or 5.
We are reporting on the 4th or 5th wave of bombing runs and the reaction on the ground of Iraqi anti-aircraft guns.
And Bernie, I believe they were the F-15Es from Saudi Arabia that were reported on CNN earlier. They were apparently coming in this direction, but it has been deathly quiet here for about 20 minutes. It seems that this initial raid is over.
Let's take John's suggestion and go back to Atlanta now, just in case our colleagues on the network have more information for you.
Bernie Shaw, Peter Arnett, and John Holloman at the Al Rashid Hotel in Baghdad. Of course, we'll be back to you, and thank you very much for your reports. We're happy to see that you're in good spirits. You have a terribly large story to report. We're going now to the White House. President Bush will address the nation at 9 p.m. Our senior White House correspondent, Charles Bierbauer, is there.
Thank you.
David, I think that as we find the detail unfolding in what is transpiring here tonight, we will see that the timing is very meticulous, and that when the President speaks here at the White House at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, it will be 5 a.m. in Baghdad. Dawn will be approaching, and people will there be getting a sense of just what has been wrought in the course of the night. And there was a purpose behind that, to have the President make his address after these first waves of bombing have taken place. We're also given to understand that the President will try to seek a tone of reassurance in this speech, reassurance to this country to be sure, and an explanation that diplomatic efforts had been exhausted before taking this step. We also understand that the congressional leadership, the main people on Capitol Hill, that would be Senators Dole and Mitchell, Congressman Foley and Michael, have been informed by the President. David?
Thank you, Charles. We'll be back to the White House again, the presidential address to the nation at 9 p.m. We go now to Jerusalem and Richard Blystone.
David, here in Jerusalem, the Israeli army has just made an announcement over the Israeli radio. It has advised Israelis to stay home and to open the kits, these boxes which contain their gas masks. It has told them to stay there and keep listening to the radio. However, there is no alert here, there are no sirens, and there is no indication that the possible Iraqi attack for which the gas masks are intended is even underway or planned. Back to you, David.
Thank you very much. Richard Blystone reporting that Israeli citizens are being advised to break out their gas mask kits and have them nearby. We're going back now to Baghdad at the Al Rashid Hotel. Bernard Shaw, Peter Arnett, and John Holloman.
This is Bernie.
Go ahead, Bernie.
I'm just crouching down here on the floor to get a better point of observation. The sky over Baghdad is black. You can hear an occasional truck or car go by, but you wouldn't know that there's life outside these windows. We no longer see tracer bullets. We can tell that there are fires off in the distance. It is eerily quiet right now. There's a very cool breeze blowing through the window here, and we are sweating in more ways than one. Peter Arnett is here. John Holloman is here. You know, it occurs to me I didn't get dinner tonight.
We have tuna fish, Bernie, lots of tuna fish.
We have put in stores of supplies here. We've got tuna fish and crackers and lots of water. Now, if this is going to be a short war, as experts in the United States suggest, maybe we won't need to eat too much of that. John, here we are for you.
I just would tell you, Peter, that I hope we do, because I had a very difficult time at Iraqi customs at the airport bringing in a huge case with 100 pounds of canned tuna fish in, and I hope we get to use it. Anyway, let me stick my head up near the window again and look out and tell you, as my colleagues have reported to you in the past, it is extraordinarily quiet here now. There are no signs of anti-aircraft fire. One thing that seems singular to me is that, 4 weeks ago, there was a major drill in Baghdad for blackout procedures. And they were able to black out one side of the city one night and then the other side of the city the other night, and were able to do it very efficiently. The Iraqi government is so well organized. It's just singular to me that it took them nearly an hour to black out the city.
Well, they are well organized, but Peter?
No, my feeling is that this was a surprise attack. I think the impression was given to us and maybe the rest of the world, we're in a cocoon here, that there'd probably be 48 hours of possible negotiations, renewed attempts to get some peace movement going. And that's why, while there was tension in the city today, there wasn't too much concern. There wasn't much concern around this hotel. Many journalists had made leisurely plans to leave in the morning on a scheduled Iraq Airlines flight.
Don't forget the CNN charter.
And there was a CNN charter coming in for Bernard Shaw. So the fact that the president did order the raids tonight seems to me to be a surprise attack. It could well have caught the Iraqis off guard. We don't know that, though.
Well, we have to wait to hear President Bush's address, not only to the United States, but to the world. But, Peter, my instincts tell me that this what we've experienced the last 2 hours, this is meant to be a sample.
Yeah, I think that's right, Bernie, because if the Iraqis, or rather if the coalition had wanted to destroy Baghdad, they would certainly have been able to do a lot more than they did here. And we don't know, of course, what's going on in Kuwait right now. We won't know till we learn from either somebody there or from government United States or coalition officials in Saudi Arabia. Peter?
Well, now that we're speculating a little, my interpretation of the analysis of the last few weeks is that the president wasn't interested in another, what they call Vietnam situation, where you would have bombing and then an assessment, hope for a political move on that hand. I thought it was all going to come at once. In fact, on the very distant horizon, we can see the sky lit up with bright, seemingly bright yellow, I hesitate to say explosions. It's light. It seems to me that planes are pounding targets possibly 15 to 20 miles south of here. Bernie?
Well, of course, we should label our speculation for what it is. It's going to be daylight here in about 3 hours, and we'll have a much better idea. And, of course, in less than 90 minutes, President Bush will be speaking from the White House, and we'll have a specific idea of United States intentions.
Yeah. I think all of us, Peter, Bernie, and I all feel that because we are in Baghdad, we're the middle of the story. And I think probably from certainly the aspect of the red, yellow, and orange pictures that you're going to be seeing on television tomorrow, if we can get them out, most of them will come from here. But we should again check in with our colleagues around the network to see what else we can find out about this. Here we go. We'll go back to the rest of CNN. Go ahead, fellas.
Thank you very much, John and Bernie and Peter, reporting from the Al Rashid Hotel in Baghdad, where Operation Desert Storm has struck with air power attacks by the multinational forces. And for that update, we'll go now to the Pentagon and Wolf Blitzer.
David, Pentagon officials say it should have come as no surprise that this attack started tonight. They say that the United States wanted to start the attack at night. There are specific targets. For almost 5.5 months, the United States has outlined virtually every strategic target in Iraq and occupied Kuwait. The U.S. airstrike was almost certainly designed to begin with the stealth fighters, the F-15Es, the F-16s, as well as the Tomahawk unmanned cruise missiles that have been stationed in the Persian Gulf aboard some of the aircraft carriers. There are 2 there now, as well as the battleships Wisconsin and Missouri. Pentagon officials say that right after the president's address to the nation, 9 o'clock Eastern time, both Defense Secretary Dick Cheney as well as General Colin Powell, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, will come here into this room and brief the news media on details of the U.S. operation. It obviously has been well planned. Obviously, it's something that the United States has been planning for some time. Now let's go to Baghdad, where our colleague John Holloman is standing by.
Well, thanks. As soon as we were confident that the skies were going to stay dark for a while, they lit up again. And there are more tracer rounds. We can hear explosions off in the distance to the west of central Baghdad. And we don't know how far to the west, but I can put the microphone out the window, and maybe you'll get to hear some of the sounds of these explosions just for a moment, or at least the anti-aircraft fire that is going with them. It's like a rumble, almost like an earthquake sort of a sound, or a giant diesel engine revving up off to the west of our position. The sky is filled with tracers. Bernie Shaw. Go ahead, Bernie.
Well, hold on. Let's let our viewers hear what's happening.
Yeah, okay. We're going to let you listen to the anti-aircraft fire and the sound of these bombs falling here in Baghdad. Intensity of the Iraqi anti-aircraft fire is not as great as it was an hour ago, is it, Peter?
No, it's not intense in that part of the city. And what interests me, John, is that there doesn't seem to be any surface-to-air missiles going up. Now, whether these were knocked out in early strikes, I don't know. But the Iraqis do have several hundred SAMs that are capable of knocking down any aircraft up there. Bernie?
And, Peter, the Iraqis could be holding their SAMs in abeyance.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We had heard from a briefing that we got some months ago that there were 2 surface-to-air missile sites in the area, and it's one of those things that the Defense Department officials are probably not wanting us to talk about. But the government of Iraq is certainly doing what it can here to fight back.
Well, not only the Defense Department, I don't know if the Defense Department cares, but the government of Iraq probably is concerned about us talking about information, I want to point out that anything we've gleaned basically is from U.S. news media and experts, and we've found nothing here that we haven't been allowed, in fact, to see much here.
Certainly.
We are confined to the hotel. We can give this report tonight because we're on the 9th floor of the Al Rashid Hotel, which has a commanding view of this very flat city to the north, south, east, and west. And for about the last 2 hours in the north, south, east, and west, there's the last hour to the north, south, east, and west, there has been enormous activity. And now we hear planes actually going over here.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can see anything. All right. There's a plane nearby. Bernie, you can see something?
Right. It's broken out on either side of us here at the hotel. And I'm just going to be quiet and let you listen.
What we can see, Peter and I, the refinery that we told you about is still being hit again, and we can hear jet planes flying overhead now, and the anti-aircraft guns going up to attempt to hit those. And we can see some bright orange flashes off in the distance here on the horizon in Baghdad. And again, the sky is filled with tracers from the anti-aircraft weapons as they go up.
Yes, John, this is the heaviest raid so far, so close in. Maybe the outskirts have been pounded this way, but certainly several planes came right over the hotel and hit targets within 1.5 miles of us. Bernie, what do you see on the other side of the hotel?
I've just come from checking out the other side of the hotel, and it's equally intense on the other side. And clearly, this is the most intense exchange we've had so far, and that was really targeted.
No kidding. The sounds of those jet planes from the United States directly overhead was a little bit unnerving for all of us, I'm sure. Peter, you've seen major military attacks in the past, and you're our history lesson here. In Vietnam, I'm sure it got much worse than this many times while you were there, didn't it?
I don't think anything in Vietnam was momentous as this land, sea, and air armada that is assembled in Saudi Arabia and off the coast. I believe there's more aircraft, attack aircraft, than at any point in history, in the whole history of the world. And right now it seems that they're all coming at Baghdad, but of course they're not. We don't know about targets anywhere else in the Iraq or in Kuwait. We are limited here to looking out our window and trying to interpret the skies and the flashes in the skies. John?
Right. Iraqi government officials have told us that they will set up a media center for us and give us information from the Iraqi government's point of view after the attack. I think we're pretty well convinced in at least the level of ministers in the government that there was going to be an attack sometime in the near future, but they didn't. I don't think the government people anticipated it would come this quickly.
Well, John, this attack left as fast as it came. The planes have left the vicinity, and the anti-aircraft fire has stopped. So we're back to another lull here, and let me give you to Bernie Shaw.
I just come back from the other side. I'm really wearing out trousers here, crawling on my knees and hands. But it occurred to me that, gentlemen, does it occur to you that it is not accidental that we are still reporting to the world?
It may not be, Bernie. I'm sure the Iraqis could pull the plug on us. I'm sure the Americans could pull the plug on us, and it's useful. I hope to our viewers around the world to be able to hear what we have to report.
Well, my point is, this government wants word put out.
This government has told us frequently, including the information minister last night, that he wanted the press to stay here. In fact, he expressed anger that some of the press had left. He said the international press says it covers human rights. It should be here to see what the United States, the multinational force, is going to do. Now, I don't see any government officials around here tonight to assist us, but they have said that we can work here, and up to now, this has to be unique. It has to be unique that we are continuing to cover this story, to talk to you, despite a series of major impact bombing raids.
Before we go back to our colleagues along the network, I would say, in reaction to what you said, that I think government officials have too much sense to be where we are right now. Let's go back to Atlanta.
There we go.
Very much, gentlemen. We'll be back with you. Operation Desert Storm is now 1 hour and 18 minutes old. The President of the United States is going to address the nation at 9 o'clock, and we'll be hearing from the folks at the Pentagon right after that. Our colleague James Blackwell from the Center for Strategic and International Studies is now with us to talk a bit about the logistics of what is happening on the battlefield. Mr. Blackwell.
David, the pattern of the bombing, as has been reported by Bernard Shaw and John Holloman, and in fact, they are serving as quite excellent scouts. They're doing a heroic effort. I'd want to have them in my cavalry unit any day, the way they're going right now, indicates to me a pattern. While it's far too early to judge from here what's going on in the rest of Kuwait and Iraq, it indicates a pattern of strategic bombing aimed at severing the command and control links between the political leadership and the army, and no doubt similar types of strategic targets down the operational chain of command are being struck at the same time. The President's statement said that the liberation of Kuwait has begun. I doubt this is a symbolic or I doubt there will be a pause to allow Saddam Hussein to capitulate. I think this exhibits a pattern of a very serious war that's going to unfold. I think they can expect continued waves of this nature to hit in Baghdad, hitting strategic targets, just as they've already seen some of the government buildings go up in smoke, the refinery, and off in the far distance, the low rumbling sound is probably 2,000-pound bombs coming from B-52s.
All right, James Blackwell, thank you very much. We'll be back with you a bit later. Let's go to the White House now and our senior White House correspondent, Charles Bierbauer. Charles.
David, President Bush, as you know, is going to make a speech tonight to explain just what it is that is going on and why he has given these orders. In fact, we were told by White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater that this is a speech the President has been working on for 2 or 3 weeks, that he has gone through about 4 drafts and has done most of the work on this himself. It'll be about a 10 or 12-minute speech. What is indicative of this kind of approach by the President is that this has been a process that is building. Mr. Fitzwater said decisions have been made incrementally leading up to the decision to launch the attack today. Indeed, the spokesman says that the President has had 5.5 months to prepare for this, and so what we've also heard from a number of people in the White House is that George Bush was amply prepared to use force almost from day one back in August when the attack on Kuwait itself was launched. The President, at a little before 7 o'clock, was in the Oval Office with some of his key advisors. He was watching the reports coming out of Baghdad from ours and other reporters there. The view was that this was happening exactly as scheduled. At 7 o'clock, he told his spokesman, Marlin Fitzwater, to go out and announce it. The President was described as calm and matter-of-fact. Prior to 7 o'clock, in the hour between 6 and 7, he called the congressional leadership to inform them of the actions he has taken. He has placed a number of calls to other world leaders. We don't know exactly who yet. That also took place in that same 6 to 7 o'clock time frame. So again, we will hear a speech that has been largely crafted by George Bush himself in anticipation of the action that he was going to call for this evening. David?
Charles, thank you very much. Of course, a very nervous part of the world also is in Jordan. We remember that Saddam Hussein threatened that if he was attacked, he would attack Israel. And of course, lying between the two places is Jordan. Doug James reports now from Amman. Doug,
we've been told that Jordanian...
Go ahead, Doug.
Sorry. We've been told that Jordanian officials, like many others, learned first of the attack on Kuwait and Iraq by watching CNN. The average person here, of course, does not get CNN and so far has not heard of this attack. There will be a radio announcement in about 7 minutes' time, and then a television announcement over Jordanian state television at 10 o'clock local time. The only reaction so far from Jordanian officials is that the attack has taken them by surprise. They said they were led by the State Department to believe that there would be at least a little bit more time for Iraq to decide to pull out of Kuwait before any action of this type began. Of course, here in Jordan, there is considerable concern because the country is wedged between the two powerful neighbors, Iraq and Israel. At the moment, everybody is waiting to see what kind of reaction there might be from Iraq and what response Israel might have to that. This is Doug James reporting live from Amman, Jordan.
Right, we've just had a report from the pool reporter in Daman who reports that he believes that coming into Dhahran now are missiles. That is a large Saudi oil town on the coast in the eastern province. Once again, the pool reporter from Dhahran in Saudi Arabia believes that he hears incoming missiles reporter Jim Hickey making that. Now let's return to Baghdad. We have 3 reporters in the Al Rashid Hotel. Come back in.
Okay, Dave, it's John. I'll start. Bernie and Peter are here. Just as you came to it, the skies lit up again with anti-aircraft fire. All right, we're going to let you hear it. It's a brightly lighted night sky now. It looks like a million fireflies off to the southwest of our location and down to the south as another wave of anti-aircraft fire goes up into the air.
It's like the beginning of it, John. There's all this anti-aircraft fire in our vicinity, but the explosions, this one a huge rose-red explosion probably 10 miles away, lighting up the sky. The guns near us have stopped firing. I get the impression that planes are just coming right over the city, and these anti-aircraft are picking them up, but they're just going on to their designated targets. And as I said, as we have noted, there's been no apparent hits on any of the attacking aircraft that we can see.
Gentlemen, we are seeing an example of surgical bombing.
Explain that, Bernie.
There have not been any wild bombs going off out of pattern. You can barely hear the planes. And throughout the last 2.5 hours, 3 hours, whenever there were exchanges, they were in specific areas.
It seems like 2.5 or 3 hours, Bernie, but I think it's been about an hour. I don't want to be frivolous about this. But we actually, Bernie, you may be right, but we won't know till tomorrow how surgically precise these bombs were. I'm sure tomorrow the Iraqi authorities, I hope, they will let us go out and see some of what's been going on. And I think that if any civilians have been hurt in these raids, we will probably get to see them. Maybe not some of their more important targets.
What I meant by that is bombing in Baghdad proper.
Yeah. Well, it's still a remarkable sight out the window here. The noise has calmed down, as I'm sure you can tell. I've got my head in the window, or at least in the vicinity of the window again, so we can look out here and get a better view of things. There's another string of tracer rounds going straight up into the air, pointing straight up out in the west of our location, and it's continuing to happen. There are other airbursts going up and exploding up in the air, and from time to time the night sky will light up brightly. In the area of, maybe more to the south into the west of Baghdad, now there seems to be a good bit of activity. We see a lot of lights and flashes in the sky, and you can hear some fire that at this distance almost sounds like M16 automatic weapons fire. Of course it is, and it's big guns at great distances away from where we are.
You know, and reflecting on my years in Latin America covering a civil war or two and having been shot at, and seeing bombing and this kind of fighting, aerial fighting, I must say that this is a new experience.
This is quite something, isn't it, Barry? They're bright flashes of light as these big bombs go off in the far distance. Yeah, Bernie, go ahead.
I'm going to leave you for a moment. I'm going to crawl over to the other side to see what's going on over there in that quadrant of the city.
Bring us back a full report, Bernie, and we'll keep looking out here on this side of the building. More anti-aircraft fire going up. We don't see any major signs of fires or anything like that on the ground in Baghdad right now. And as we look out, we see more and more, we do actually. Now to the north of our location, we see some bright flashes of light on the ground, and now due west of where we are. There's more fire going up. There's a bomb that has come down now. You'll probably hear the report at the refinery in just a minute. We saw the bomb come down. We saw the flash, and you just heard the explosion. And it was a big blast bomb blast that came through this window. I'm going to back away from the window now. I'll still try to get a view for you, but that was a rough one for me. It was very far away, and I'm sure it was not dangerous, but it was the biggest blast of air that I've felt from a bomb so far. Peter?
Yeah, that could have been as heavy as a 2,000-pound bomb. The windows in the hotel room have held. Maybe they are bulletproof. Maybe they're also bomb-proof. The waves are coming basically every 15 minutes now. It seems maybe 3-4 planes. They're unloading their hardware and then heading off. These pilots, these American pilots, are flying through a lot of flak, a lot of anti-aircraft fired from the ground. The gunners are firing a lot, but the U.S. planes don't seem to be targeting any of the anti-aircraft weaponry at this point. They seem intent on hitting specified targets and then getting on their way. John?
Peter, could the reason that they're not worried about the anti-aircraft fire be that the planes are flying high enough so that the anti-aircraft fire wouldn't be effective against them anyway?
No, I think it would be too difficult to try and figure out where the anti-aircraft fire is, John, at this point. Don't forget, seems to be a strategic attack on Baghdad. It is not preparation, I would think, for a ground assault. So there is less need to specifically knock off every weapon that's going up to you.
All right, Peter, I'm going to go back to the window because I see some bright light off to in one direction from our location, and I see more and more air bursts. It looks like there are 100 fireflies off in the southwest of where we are now. It's just and the fireflies are flashing brightly one after another. It's really it's like sparklers on the 4th of July at a great, great distance, many miles away from where we are. The blast that came through this window a few minutes ago was very much like the first blast you feel when you're out at the countdown clock at Cape Canaveral for a space shuttle launch. It was just a powerful wave of hot air that came into our location here, and the sky is still alight. We see some more anti-aircraft rounds going off one by one. There's no great noisy barrage of anti-aircraft in Baghdad now, but we do still see things, and I'm going to look out the window and see if I can see where this bright light is coming from. I actually can't. It's in the direction, I guess, generally to the south of where we are, but I just, because of the way the hotel is built, I can't see around enough to tell you precisely where the bright light's coming from.
Yeah, it could be anywhere away to the south of the west there, John. It's the skies are lit up frequently, and out there somewhere there is a terrible pounding going on, and it seems to be much more serious than it is here in the center city. And it has been continuing now for about an hour and a half, and obviously the U.S. Air Force is serious about its mission here tonight.
Absolutely. And there could be some planes from other coalition members as well. We have another, I won't call this a lull, but well, there's an airburst not directly overhead, but it's visible up in the sky rather than down on the ground, out in the southwestern direction generally from where we are. And as I look out, Peter?
What I think is very eerie about this, John, is that quite a few of the explosions, most of them haven't been accompanied by the sound of aircraft. I don't know if we're getting cruise missiles coming in here, or and that is guided cruise missiles, or these planes are flying very high. We did hear at least 2 or 3 aircraft come low over the hotel, but we really don't know where all this flak, all this bombing is coming from, and I get the impression that the anti-aircraft fire is all over the sky. They don't seem to have much idea either, John.
Yeah, and I think we might be able to hear something, and we do hear something now. I think this is probably coalition airplane fire again. There's a loud rushing sound like the sound of a jet engine nearby, and a lot of anti-aircraft going up after it, but no sign of any connection between the anti-aircraft fire on the ground and the skies above. I'll attempt to get back to the window and have another look out and see what I can see down below. And but you can hear it echoing off the concrete buildings in downtown Baghdad, and it could even be that some of the echoes that we're hearing now are from the area of the Tigris River, which is very near where we're located. You can hear some more sound of anti-aircraft fire. And Peter, that sound that we just heard with the echo after it, did that sound to you like an airplane sound?
No, I think it's just anti-aircraft fire. They've got Russian weapons here. They've got all manners of equipment, of which I'm not overly familiar with, John. So it could be they're just noises in the night in one sense.
Exactly, noises that we're not too pleased to be close to, but we'll continue to be. There's no place for us to go. We've been told to stay where we are, and we'll certainly do that. Yeah, there is another lull, it seems, and what we'd like to do is check in with our other colleagues up and down the cable news network and see what they can report to us. So for now, we'll stand by in Baghdad.
John, Peter, Bernie, thank you very much. I'd like to make a correction and an update on an earlier report we had from a pool reporter, Jim Hickey. We had said that he was in Dhahran, and we'd like to correct that. He was reporting from an air base in Saudi Arabia when he reported the sound of incoming missiles. He further updated that he believed they were Scud missiles before he had to seek shelter and obey orders to get out of there. Now, the sound that came through the window there in the hotel, we have indications that the B-52s could be on scene because that blast was so large. We go to Wolf Blitzer now at the Pentagon.
David, here at the Pentagon only moments ago, CNN has been told that the initial reports reaching the Pentagon from Operation Desert Shield's headquarters in Riyadh, that's CENTCOM, are very positive. It is an air campaign at this point, strictly an air campaign, very carefully orchestrated, rehearsed over many, many weeks and months. The officials with whom we have discussed say that there are no reports so far of any U.S. fighter aircraft or bombers destroyed, anything along those lines. Indeed, there is a confidence. There is at this point here at the Pentagon all the indications that this United States assault is moving just as it has been planned now for many, many weeks. Back to you, David.
Charles Jaco is standing by for us in Dhahran. We remember when we last saw him, he was hastily grabbing a gas mask and getting out of there. Charles, you're back. I'm glad to see that. Please update us. Do we have Charles Jaco?
We're now told.
Go ahead.
We're now told it was a national air raid alarm. A national air raid alarm that did not affect the situation here right now. Apparently what happened was the air raid alarms went off. We were told to go into the basement with our gas masks. All the crews left the camera platforms here, and as I was in the middle of my report, the power was cut. Everyone here is fine. What we have been led to understand by the Saudi military is that the U.S. and allied airstrike against Iraq has been what the Saudi military calls massive, and they underline the word massive. They say there has been no indication of any sort of Iraqi retaliation so far, that no missiles and no planes have been sighted coming from Iraq towards Saudi Arabia or indeed any place else. They emphasize that this could change and that we are to stand by. I have here the remainder of the pool report on the launching of the strike that basically fills us in a little bit that the first wave of F-15s took off about 3 hours and 10 minutes ago. Right now, near this airbase where we are, everything is fine. But again, the Saudi military sources say there is no evidence of any Iraqi retaliatory strike against Saudi Arabia or against Israel. That could change. They describe the U.S. assault on the U.S. and allied assault on Iraq as massive, using mammoth amounts of air power. But as far as they're able to ascertain, no B-52 bombers were in use. That's according to the Saudi military. We here are all fine. The entire CNN crew is fine. All the journalists here are fine. But again, it was a false alarm by Saudi National Civil Defense. Right now, the skies are quiet. There are no planes flying over. It's rather cloudy and overcast, but there is no indication no indication at all of any kind of aerial activity from here. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Saudi Arabia.
All right, Charles, thank you, and we're glad to hear that that was a false alarm. We should remind our viewers that we don't have a CNN presence in Kuwait City. We are unable to bring you news from there right now. Wolf Blitzer was reporting from the Pentagon. When we interrupted him to go back to Charles Jaco, we went back, of course, because we had lost touch with him suddenly. Wolf, picking up where you were, please.
Yes, David, the initial indications are that this U.S. airstrike is moving along very smoothly. No reports yet of any U.S. Aircraft downed or anything like that. What we have been told is that the initial U.S. targets in Iraq and occupied Kuwait were anything that could endanger U.S. aircraft, especially anti-aircraft missile batteries, all of the Iraqi radar jamming installations. The U.S. has sent in what are called F-4G Wild Weasel and EF-111 Raven. These are defense suppression aircraft. Basically what they do is zap almost all of the communications in and around Iraq, making it very difficult for the Iraqi radars to hone in on the invading U.S. aircraft. The indications are very, very positive from the U.S. point of view here at the Pentagon that this U.S. airstrike is moving according to the game plan, which I reported earlier was very carefully orchestrated over these past many months. David?
Wolf, in the weeks and months leading up to this, there's been a lot of diplomacy and some failed diplomacy, and among the things that went on, Saddam Hussein made some threats. Among them were to do grave damage to Tel Aviv if he were attacked. Let's switch there now to Richard Roth. And Richard, are there any signs of retaliation?
No, so far Tel Aviv is quiet this morning. There is no sound at all almost in the city. Everyone in Israel has been urged to stay inside their homes as the government instituted what's called a national economy emergency system. But people have been advised to open up their protective gas mask kits and keep them nearby. And if anyone has to go to work, While they are there, they are urged to take their gas masks with them. The public is urged also to listen to the radio. And Israel radio has sprung alive with the reports from Mideast capitals, including reports from CNN, keeping everyone here up to date on the situation. This is the city that Saddam Hussein said he would attack with missiles should the multinational force attack him. So far, the skies are quiet here in Tel Aviv.
Richard Roth, thank you very much. Again, the President of the United States will address the nation and the world in under an hour from now at 9 Eastern. We return to Baghdad at the Al Rashid Hotel.
All right, David, here we are. The sky is being lighted now by some bright flashes far in the distance. You remember, Peter, when we were children, our parents would tell us if there was lightning, you could tell how far the lightning was away by counting 1 1,000, 2 1,000. I guess you could do the same thing for bombs, can't you?
Maybe, John. I was just picking up on a comment by Wolf Blitzer from the Pentagon that the targets were basically defense suppression. This could well be the case here because I see no fires on the horizon. If they were hitting buildings or even, structures, we did see smoke earlier, but we don't see any flames. Maybe the targets have been surface-to-air missiles or whatever, but we do not see flames at this point, even though scores of bombs have been dropped in Baghdad so far this morning. John?
Peter, we should try to help analyze, if we can, for at least our own edification, these bright white lights that seem to be moving across the sky from south to north right now. The lights look like the lights you'd see from helicopters, but there's no sound out there.
It could be radar suppression material dropped from planes or from spotter planes of some kind. It could be to disrupt the radar defenses of Baghdad. That would probably be my guess. That's the only reason I'd be up there, John.
Yeah. Bernie Shaw is going to come over and talk to us now. Bernie?
Well, I just wanted to chime in on this speculation. They could be choppers, those choppers that have the very, very quiet engines.
Yeah, and they could be at a great distance away from us.
You mean our choppers or their choppers? I mean U.S. choppers or Iraqi choppers?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I very much doubt that multinational force choppers are this far into the country. If they are, it would be another kind of operation.
Then they would have to be Iraqi choppers. Yeah. I know that I saw 2 choppers go by at this hotel window.
Yeah. Well, I know early in the morning we've seen several runs by choppers by the hotel. Helicopters, of course. The Soviet Hind helicopters are the ones that they use mostly here in Iraq. Now, way off in the distance, many, many miles away, you can hear these blasts again coming through. Some more anti-aircraft fire, and I guess a little bit lower down on the ground. I'll once again let you hear the sound of what is going on over Baghdad tonight. Thing about this is you still can't hear the airplanes. You can't hear any sign of these planes that the anti-aircraft guns are being fired at.
Yeah, well, I'm anxious for daylight to come. Maybe we can get some visibility. From what we can see, the populated areas of Baghdad where all the people live, there doesn't seem to be any bombing activity at all. The bridges are still standing. In fact, the bridges over the Tigris River they are still lit. So we don't see any action at all within the city. Around us and a couple of government centers, there seemed to have been some bombing earlier, but right now, in fact, in the last half hour, the bombing has moved out seemingly beyond the perimeter of the city to presumably military targets, strategic targets, further west towards
Yes, that's correct. Kind of out of the immediate vicinity of Baghdad here. And I just looked out on the street a moment ago and saw a very small automobile driving down there. Peter, look at this. This is a bright flash of light that seems to be, it came across from north to south and even came up here by us in the hotel. And there it goes, almost like a shooting star.
I think that shooting star is probably an F-15, John.
Yeah. So that's what they look like at night when they're working. All right. It's good to know. There are a couple of vehicles out on the street, more anti-aircraft fire. Well, there's something going on that you can hear down there. It seems that maybe a bomb was just dropped again near the main telecommunications center here in Baghdad, and the anti-aircraft fire is again going up as the night sky continues to be brightly lighted in Baghdad. Peter.
Yes, John, that was a tactical strike. The plane could have been as close as 500 meters in the sky above its target. And certainly it's being met with a lot of anti-aircraft fire, but it is long gone at this point, John.
Yeah. These planes are moving so rapidly, and with the one bright light on them. I guess that's the engines themselves that we're seeing going by. This is something I've never covered before, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Arnett is our expert at CNN on war coverage, and I'm getting, this is a literal baptism by fire, isn't it, Peter?
Well, I don't think there's anyone alive, John, who is an expert on this sort of thing, being in the middle of a major capital with an airstrike, air attacks like this going on. I don't know if any experts exist.
Well, Bernie, I'll tell you, I was just at the window and I saw that F-15 go by, or more accurately, I should say I heard it. And as you indicated, Peter Arnett, by the time that plane had cleared the space over here, it was out of sight. Only then could the anti-aircraft batteries respond to it, and as you said, it was much too late.
All right, since we did see another bomb go off near the major telecommunications facility, we better make sure that our viewers are still able to hear us. Let us just check in, make sure that you guys can still hear us in Atlanta and around the network.
John Holloman, Bernard Shaw, and Peter Arnett, yes, indeed, we can hear you, and we're going now to the Pentagon briefly, and Wolf Blitzer.
David, here at the Pentagon, we're in the press briefing room where there is going to be a briefing with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Colin Powell, and Defense Secretary Dick Cheney shortly after the president addresses the nation. That is in about 45 minutes. We are also receiving indications from Pentagon sources that this initial U.S. airstrike seems to be moving ahead on schedule, as planned, without any great disasters as far as the United States is concerned. One reason why there, so far, does not appear to have been any Scud launchings into Saudi Arabia or into Israel or into any of the other alleged targets that the Iraqis had is because we had been told repeatedly that those F-15s, those F-117A stealth fighters, those F-16s, all of the carrier-based U.S. aircraft, their immediate initial target, in addition to anything that could endanger those planes, would be all of Iraq's Scud missile bases, the mobile bases, certainly the fixed ballistic missile bases. They not only have the Soviet-made Scud ground-to-ground missiles, but also the Iraqis have improved some of those Scuds. They're called the Al Hussein and the Al Abbas. Those were day one, number one targets, as we and other networks have been reporting now for months. The United States was going to take those missile sites out. No indication completely, no confirmation that the United States has, but certainly if the Iraqis had planned to launch any of those Scud missiles, they almost certainly would have launched them within the first minutes of this war, and the war now appears to be about 2 hours old. David?
Operation Desert Storm now 1 hour and 3/4 old, and with me here in the studio, listening to it all along, the coverage from Baghdad is so compelling, we'll go back right away, but Secretary Weinberger, former Secretary of Defense through two terms of the Reagan administration. What about what you've been hearing?
Well, I think, first of all, we achieved complete tactical surprise, very much like the attack on Libya when the lights were all on and didn't go off until long after the raid began. Secondly, I think targets, radar and defense suppression was the principal goal, and the first wave probably didn't do any bombing, just in order to draw the radar and to identify the sites. And I think subsequent waves did do that. Thirdly, I think and there'll be more of that, of course, as we identify more and more radar sites. Finally, I think the targets that we had chosen have been very carefully chosen to be military only and to be well away from any kind of civilian casualty damage. That would be airfields, railroad stations, the communications tower that they keep mentioning, military assembly points, anything of that kind. And they will be very careful to select them so that even if the bomb misses by a short amount, it would not get into civilian damage. But primarily, this was to suppress the defense, the missiles and the radar, and to identify the radar. And I would imagine most of this raid will continue probably well into the morning hours, because with many of the defense points suppressed, the additional planes can go in with far less danger.
Secretary Weinberger, thank you very much for that perspective. Charles Bierbauer is standing by live at the White House, where the president is about to come on in a short time. I'm sorry, I'm hearing that there's another wave of planes coming into Baghdad, and we have 3 fine reporters there. Let's listen.
Dave, thank you. We're back here, and just as Secretary Weinberger was talking to us, we were watching another one of these waves of attack here. The night sky lit up once again, a lot of anti-aircraft fire, and we can hear the sounds of battle outside the window.
And once again, John Holloman, as the planes come in and just shoot across the sky, by the time these anti-aircraft batteries respond, it is too late.
Interesting what Secretary Weinberger was saying, that what the planes, whoa, that was a bright light, everybody get down in case there's a blast after. Okay, that was on the east side of our location.
That was definite bombing. That was on the other side of the hotel.
Yeah, look over here, Bernie, off to the west. A lot of bright lights down on the horizon now. It could be anti-aircraft or it could be incoming there.
Yeah. Well, let's let our viewers around the world listen to this exchange for a while.
Okay, Bernie, I'm going to crawl over to the window again with our microphone and just poke it out the window and let you listen to what we were able to hear so clearly here in Baghdad tonight. It's beginning to get quiet again. Peter?
Yes, John, on the other side of the hotel, it's a little noisier. Just 2 minutes ago, there were 3 enormous explosions that one after the other within seconds. I have no idea what the target was, but they shook the hotel on that side. So these bombing raids are continuing now, wave after wave, and the intensity has been maintained. I've noticed that the Iraqis have uncorked new kinds of anti-aircraft weapons. I don't know what they are, but
they appear to be heavier caliber.
They are spurting fire into the sky, heavier caliber. I don't know what they are, but they are more impressive than that used earlier. They're obviously uncorking other extra anti-aircraft defenses as this battle progresses.
Just one comment. Clearly, I've never been there, but this feels like we're in the center of hell.
It's a remarkable experience to be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and the night sky again lit up with beautiful red and orange tracers and white flashes again as airbursts continue to come, probably from the anti-aircraft guns, from all we can tell. And all around us now we hear explosions, big explosions at great distances away from our location. As Secretary Weinberger was mentioning in his interview just now, Peter, they are not apparently, the Allies, the coalition forces are not targeting civilian targets apparently at all. And all the anti-aircraft fire, and we see more of it to the south right now, going straight up, seems to be very far from the center of town.
Well, right in front of me, John, to I guess the north, I see a series of surface-to-air missiles being fired up. They look like that to me. They're going straight in the sky. Who knows what they're aiming at? They're aimed at the attacking force, but there were about 5 were launched just within seconds of each other.
Yeah, it's going to boom, 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 boom.
They just went right up there, right into the sky.
Right, and it's we'll have to tell you again, and for our families who are listening to our broadcast now, all of this is happening very far away from where we are. It's nighttime, so everything is brightly illuminated, but you should know that for the present time anyway, we're safe, and all the action is very visible to us, but it's very far away from us. Bernie Shaw.
Oh, well, I'm just crawling around on the floor. I just checked the other side of the hotel, and it's a repetition of what we're seeing before our very eyes right now. More anti-aircraft fire, what appears to be giant sparklers flashing and then going dark, streams of tracer fire going up.
Yeah, it's like one of these fireworks that has a bunch of, it says exploding balls on the side of it. They go up in the air one after the other.
And there's no doubt to me that those flashing silver lights are radar suppression devices just to mislead the radar-guided anti-aircraft guns that are shooting at the planes coming by, John.
Peter, let's go over to the other side of the hotel. We have a long extension.
Interrupting the gentleman in Baghdad, we're going now to Charles Jaco in Saudi Arabia. He's in Dhahran. Charles?
Just lost the line.
We hear the sirens and we can see you,
Hello.
Charles.
This is Charles Jaco in Saudi Arabia. Right now, the air raid sirens are going off again. We're being told to clear the area. The last time it was a drill. This time we're not sure if it is a drill or not, but everyone's being told to clear this area and get out of this area, get into the shelter in the basement of the area where we are. Right now, the only information we have that's updated is from the Saudi military, who say there was a mammoth airstrike against Iraq, and so far, at least until now, no trace of any retaliation from Iraq. This may be it. We don't know. The last time it was a drill, but the Saudi military says it's been a mammoth Allied airstrike against Iraq. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Saudi Arabia.
All right, Charles, we do hear those precautionary sirens in the background. Let's return now to Baghdad. I'll remind you that at the Al Rashid Hotel there, a 14-story building, Bernard Shaw, Peter Arnett, John Holloman.
For Baghdad, well, I hesitate to say an air battle. There does not seem to have been any Iraqi aircraft fighters in the sky. We have seen no dogfights that could resemble anything like that. It looks like the Iraqi Air Force has not been able to get in the sky tonight. Maybe they were one of the first targets hit, Bernie.
And for our viewers, just to paint the picture for you where we are physically right now, we are in the hall on the floor, and we can look through open hotel doors to see either side. And it has suddenly fallen quiet again over the skies of Baghdad.
It has done so a dozen times in the last hour and a half, Bernie, and this lull is usually broken by more bombing. John?
That's right, Peter. Wave after wave of attack coming in here to downtown Baghdad. But we have so many correspondents arrayed around the globe at this hour. We would like to hear from more of them, so let some of them talk for a little while as we wait for the next wave of attack, which we'll do our best to bring to you. John Holloman with Bernie Shaw and Peter Arnett live in Baghdad.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We definitely will be back with you. Let's go now to the White House. The President of the United States is going to speak to the nation in a little more than a half an hour, and Charles Bierbauer.
Well, the President has been in the Oval Office throughout the evening. We're told that National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft is in the Situation Room here at the White House and keeping the President apprised. Also told that the President is able to have instantaneous communication, if he wants it, with General Schwarzkopf, who is the U.S. commander on the ground in Saudi Arabia. A couple of points. As we know, the President was watching television shortly before 7 o'clock. Officials say there was some concern about the attack being aired live on television, but the President, as he watched and heard the reports coming out of Baghdad, noted that things were moving right on schedule. That's when the announcement was made here. Marlon Fitzwater, in briefing reporters, was asked just what the objective is. Is it to get Saddam Hussein? Mr. Fitzwater spelled out the objectives this way, saying it is to get compliance with the UN resolutions and to free Kuwait. Although some officials here have indicated that indeed Saddam Hussein would certainly be at risk in a bombing attack on Baghdad. Again, the President working on that speech, actually a speech that he has been working on for a couple of weeks and that he has written pretty much himself. It'll last 10 to 12 minutes. One last point, Mr. Fitzwater asked if there's now relief here, said relief is not the word. The word is anticipation, that indeed there will be several days of hard work lying ahead. As you can hear, Mr. Bush will speak at 9:01. David?
Is a 9:01 hard start. Thank you.
Okay, Charles, thank you very much. We're going now to Richard Blystone in Jerusalem. We'll be back with you later. Richard.
It's going to be live.
David, we have with us here in the CNN office in Jerusalem a high-ranking member of Israel's cabinet, Ehud Olmert, the Minister of Health. Let me ask you first, Mr. Olmert, was Israel informed of when this attack was going to take place?
Well, I was not entirely surprised that it took place tonight, that I can say.
Now, intelligence about the movements of Iraqi missiles and aircraft was of supreme importance to Israel in these last weeks. Can you talk about how you managed it with the United States?
Well, first of all, we have our own intelligence, which is not so bad, and we have tried as good as we could to find out exactly. And it is not a secret that we have very good and close relationships with America, and there was a constant flow of information throughout.
Now, your aircraft, Israeli jet aircraft, have been flying 24-hour cover around Israel's borders, a sky shield for several days now. Obviously, you weren't entirely confident that all of Iraq's missiles could be stopped.
Oh, no. In fact, right now, I'm not sure that they are entirely stopped. And as you know, we are on an alert situation. The Israelis were advised not to leave homes. And the gas masks are very close to everyone. I'm carrying one with me now. And we are not certain that it will not happen.
Now, as Minister of Health, you had an extra special interest in the missiles or bombers. at this point you don't feel that the risk is entirely over?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, all our systems are ready. All the hospitals have been alerted, and we have bought special drugs in the last few weeks to make sure that in case there are some people wounded, we will know how to treat them, both for chemical weapons and for biological weapons. And the danger is not over yet. Everything can happen.
But what you had to be prepared for and what you really expected would be two different things. Can you tell us what kind of Iraqi response did you really expect? Did you expect it would be devastating?
Look, we know that they have ground-to-ground missiles which can reach Israel. We know that they have chemicals. We know that they have biological warheads. We know that for some time they have been threatening Israel to be the first target. In fact, they said it. Saddam Hussein said it, and Tariq Aziz said it very explicitly, that the first target for the Iraqi missiles will not be Saudi Arabia or Kuwait, but Israel. And we had to take it very seriously. So in fact, we have prepared ourselves for the worst possible scenario. We have prepared ourselves for a massive number of casualties, and we did everything possible in order to address ourselves to this. We bought lots of medicines. We have installed in every hospital in Israel detoxicating, purifying systems, so that if people will be hit, they will be washed and brought to treatment afterwards. And the whole country is ready and is very much aware of the danger.
Just one last question, Mr. Minister. How long is it going to be? What are you going to require as evidence before you stop carrying around your gas mask?
Well, I guess that when it's quite clear that Iraq is totally defeated and they are totally incapacitated by the American tech, then I think we'll feel a lot more confident.
Ehud Olmert, Israeli Health Minister, thank you very much. Back to you, David.
Richard and Minister Olmert, thank you very much for that report from CNN Jerusalem. The last time we heard from Charles Jaco, he was heading for a bomb shelter at Dahran, and we will be back to him as soon as we can. There were sirens in the background, but no signs of any incoming anything. The United States and the UN Allied forces have launched a massive air attack on Baghdad, Iraq tonight, wave after wave of planes coming over, but apparently doing pinpoint bombing, going after strategic targets and not saturation bombing. Let's switch now to the focus of much of the diplomatic negotiation that preceded tonight's action, and Jeannie Mose at the United Nations.
David, the members of the UN Security Council are expected to meet here at the UN for consultations on this sometime tonight. The Secretary General of the UN told us as much a short time ago. On his way out of the building, we're not sure when. The U.S. mission to the United Nations is saying that probably sometime after the President of the United States speaks. In any case, the Secretary General of the UN was watching all of this on television. He left the building a short time ago saying he would be back soon. And here is some of what he said on his way out the door.
After all my efforts, after all the efforts of so many countries and so many personalities, that we are now facing a war. And then at this very moment, only 1 hour and a half after the hostilities, I am not well informed. I have not a lot of details about what has happened. But I think it's for me to express my deep sorrow because of as Secretary General of the United Nations, a peace organization, I can only be saddened by the beginning of hostilities.
The Secretary General saying he was saddened by hostilities. He also sounded a bit upset that he was not informed. He does not seem to be terribly informed in advance about this by the United States. As for action by the Council, we expect the United States to probably brief members of the Council on what it is doing. the ambassador from Cuba, which was one of the two countries that voted against the use of force resolution, as he left the building a few minutes ago. He said that Cuba would try to get the Council to do something to stop this war, although there's not much the Council can do. After all, it was the Council that authorized this action. And a CNN crew a short time ago went to the Iraqi mission to the UN to see what kind of response they would have at this early time in the hostilities. Someone merely closed the door on CNN people, saying no, no, no. It was interesting, actually, when word of this started to come through here at the UN, filter out here at the UN. It wasn't confirmed. I happened to be near some of the Iraqi delegations, some of the lower-level people that were sitting in the UN, and I told them what we had heard, that the hostilities were starting. They were serious, calm about it, and they simply at that point thought it probably wasn't true. Well, it is true. The Kuwaiti ambassador, by the way, welcomed the attack and said he wished victory to the U.S.-led operation. I'm Jeannie Mose reporting live from the United Nations.
Thank you, Jeannie. I might make note now for our viewers that we have temporarily lost contact with Baghdad. I don't wish to alarm anyone. We did expect to have this come in and out. But our three correspondents, Bernard Shaw, Peter Arnett, and John Holloman, are there in the Al Rashid Hotel. We expect to, and we hope to be bringing you some more of their reports later. The NATO foreign ministers have announced an emergency meeting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They will be meeting at their headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. That comes 1/2 hour after the meeting here in Washington with the nation on television of President Bush, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, addressing the United States on what has been called by United States officials Operation Desert Storm. Wave after wave of Allied planes attacking tonight the city and capital of Baghdad. Let's go now for an update to the Pentagon and Wolf Blitzer.
David, here at the Pentagon, we are broadcasting now from the CNN office at the Pentagon. They're getting the studio in the Pentagon ready for a briefing in about 1 hour, shortly after the President's address to the nation. They're getting it ready for a briefing by the Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Colin Powell. I want to reiterate what you said. The loss of communications, hopefully only temporarily, from Baghdad should not necessarily be a source of great alarm. For days, Pentagon officials have been telling us here at CNN that in this initial airstrike, once it happens, the U.S. will be zapping most of Iraq with so much electronic jamming equipment, so many electronic signals, that almost all of the communications, telephone, satellite, everything else, certainly television, almost everything is going to go out very, very quickly. It was a high priority target for the U.S. military, not necessarily to go after civilian targets, but to make sure that all of the command and communications facilities in and around Baghdad, certainly in Basra, in the south of Iraq, closer to Kuwait, all of that would be knocked out. The major reason being that the 540,000 Iraqi troops in and around Kuwait, what's called the Kuwaiti Theater, Kuwait and southern Iraq, that they would be isolated from command headquarters, from the bunkers where presumably Saddam Hussein personally is giving orders. So I just wanted to reiterate that we should not be overly alarmed by the loss of communications, and we should not be surprised if those communications with Baghdad are derailed, at least for the duration, at least for the time being. Let me also say that this airstrike is an airstrike. We have no indications that any U.S. land forces have actually moved in to liberate Kuwait. It has always been assumed that it would be several days, maybe even a week or two, could be longer, before any of those ground forces would be used. Certainly the initial reports reaching the Pentagon from CENTCOM, Central Command Headquarters in Riyadh, from General Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of Operation Desert Shield, those initial reports appear to be very favorable as far as the U.S. is concerned. The orchestrated U.S. airstrike with all of the targets, the Scud missile bases, the anti-aircraft facilities, all of the Iraqi air bases, anything that could endanger the invading U.S. Air Force and the Navy fighters, all of that would be destroyed in this initial airstrike. David?
Wolf, thank you very much. It is 8:37 in the East. President Bush addresses the nation at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Just moments ago, the White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater described the president as calm, expectant, very matter-of-fact. He has been watching the first reports of the action which he initiated. We're going now to New York. The financial markets are reacting. Certainly there have been some jiggles in the oil markets. Bill Hartley reports now from New York.
Well, David, the outbreak of war is, of course, dominating world financial markets at this hour. Japan's stock market, though, down only very slightly in morning trading. Apparent relief that something has finally happened. Nikkei average is off just over 75 points. That's about a third of a percentage point. Oil prices are rising right now on fears of what war will do to Middle Eastern fields, but spot traders say there are very few buyers or sellers. The quoted range is anywhere from $7 to $12 a barrel, higher than closing New York prices. That would put a barrel of light sweet crude just over the $40 mark. And the dollar is sinking against most major currencies, off 1 1/4 yen against the Japanese currency, falling about 2 pfennigs on the German mark and 1 1/4 cent on the British pound. We'll be following other markets in Asia and Europe through the night. David?
Bill Hartley reporting from the financial desk in New York. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to report that we can go back to Baghdad now and our 3 correspondents there. Let's see who picks up the phone.
Yes, this is Peter Arnett here. We're just temporarily off the air. There has been a lull for about 15, 20 minutes now. There has not been one tracer bullet in the sky. We don't see any more bombing in the distance, so for the time being anyway, it is quiet. I'll give you over to Bernie Shaw.
Thank you, Peter. Just to explain to our viewers why you did not hear from us for a nervously long time. For the past 20 minutes, I've been hiding under a table, and what happened was the security people made a sweep. They got very upset that there were 3 mortals on this floor, just 3 men standing in a hotel room. So I scampered to hide to make sure that if they pulled Arnett and Holloman out and took them downstairs into custody, at least there would still be one CNN person on the air. John?
I did the same thing you did, Bernie, only I hid under a bed, and it's amazing that somebody as large as I am can get under a bed that close to the ground, but I was able to do it at least, and the situation here now is, you know, the Iraqi authorities now know that we're here, and I don't know that they've been able to tell, I don't know whether there's satellite dishes that are tuned to CNN work in the blackout conditions.
I'm concerned that we not be summarily picked off one by one, so I'm going to yield the microphone to you, John, and to you, Peter, and I'm going to go back and hide under this table, not because I'm fearful of what's happening outside in the air, but I want to be sure that if there's another sweep, if you two get picked off, at least one of us will be here, and perhaps it might be a good idea to rotate this.
Sure, good idea, Bernie.
I'd like to assure our viewers the hotel security men were amiable. They let me stay. They understood. I explained that I didn't tell them we were reporting live from this hotel room, but I did say that we had been invited by the Minister of Information to witness what was going on here, and they accepted that explanation. 1 minute, please.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. I'm just looking out the window. The security people have forced us to close our windows, and maybe it's for our own good, maybe not. We don't know whether these windows are going to shatter under blasts or not, but there's some beautiful tracer fire outside now. It's way up in the air. It's bright red blasts and yellow blasts, and with the windows closed, we can't hear as well as we were able to hear before. But, you know, it continues to go on outside now. We don't, because we can't hear as well, we can't really tell you as much about what's going on as we would have been able to with the window open. Well, these security fellows also took some of the videotape out of one of our cameras. They say we'll get it back tomorrow. I'm a little skeptical that we will, but it was the beautiful pictures that we took to go along with the commentary that you heard earlier tonight on CNN.
You keep using that word, beautiful. This is not beautiful to me. Peter, you were being modest when you told viewers, you explained that you had the permission of the Interior, the Information Ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, you should have heard this masterful performance. I was in the other room on the floor under the table, and this Peter Arnett man said to the security guy, I spent 10 years in Vietnam. The bombs outside, they don't bother me. If I go down in the shelter, I go crazy. It was quite a performance, and he conned them.
That's right.
All right, Bernie and Peter and John, we'll be back to you. Thanks for that report. We're going now to Charles Jaco, who has been reporting to us from Tehran, Saudi Arabia. Charles?
Yes, another false alarm, apparently. The air raid sirens went off here. We were led to believe it was some sort of air raid alert, either a missile alert or an air raid attack. We've stayed out here, losing phone lines, getting them back. What we can see is behind us, I don't know if you can see them, the lights of the city are on. It's rather unusual for a city that might be thought to be under attack, but the city is still brightly lit around the air bases here. There's no sign that the city is hunkered down or blacked out at all. Air raid sirens did sound. They sounded for a couple of minutes, then went off. Then the alarms here at the hotel went off, telling everyone to don their gas masks. All of us carry these now, and to get downstairs. Again, that it was apparently a false alarm. What we know, again, we can repeat, we heard earlier from Saudi military sources, which is that the first one was a false alarm. Apparently this one was a false alarm. It was a national air raid alert. The last we heard from the Saudi military, and we say Saudi military because no information has been forthcoming here from U.S. military sources, is that the airstrikes against Iraq by Allied air forces, primarily the U.S. Air Force, have been massive, and they kept emphasizing that word, massive, and that they have detected no retaliation, either missile or jet, against Saudi Arabia from that. The Saudis are still obviously on pins and needles. They've been living in a state of high war alert since early August and are very understandably nervous and concerned about what might happen. But so far, everyone here in Tehran is safe, and there have been no problems except for bad cases of jangled nerves and scrambles down to the hotel basement into the shelter and putting on the gas mask. But all we can tell you right now is that apparently the attack was underway, it was massive, and so far at least, and this was our information as of about 20 minutes ago, so far no retaliation, either missile or jet of any kind from Iraq, has been spotted. Charles Jaco, CNN, reporting live from Saudi Arabia.
All right, Charles, we'll switch just a few miles away and go to Riyadh, I believe, and Don Sweeney. We're expecting a report from him. Come in.
The military personnel in Saudi Arabia have just learned officially from their commander that they are in fact involved in Operation Desert Storm. A communique from General Norman Schwarzkopf issued just a few moments ago. Part of it says to the members of the military, you are a member of the most powerful force of our country in coalition with our allies that has ever assembled in a single theater to face such an aggressor. Now you have trained hard for this battle, and you are ready. He goes on to say a bit later, our cause is just. Now you must be the thunder and lightning of Desert Storm. May God be with you, your loved ones at home, and our country. It's signed H. Norman Schwarzkopf, the commander of the forces in Saudi Arabia. This is John Sweeney, CNN, in Riyadh.
All right, John, any extraneous noises outside where you are? Is everything fine?
We had one air raid warning about an hour and a half ago. We have not heard anything since then. The traffic in the streets is quite early in the morning here. It's 4:45 in the morning. The traffic in the street is quite normal, and other than that, things are quite quiet in Riyadh.
All right, thank you very much. And now a moniker that I hope doesn't stick. Let's go back to the boys in Baghdad.
Thank you, David. The boys in Baghdad are here, and we want to tell you a couple of things. There have been calls we've learned from CNN, from other networks, asking about the safety of their people. There are 45 journalists still in Baghdad tonight, according to the Minister of Information. And as far as we know, all those 45 journalists are in this hotel, and everybody in this hotel is safe. It hasn't been hit. There's a series of fallout, or not, bomb shelters down in the basement. And virtually everybody except us is down there in those shelters. Bernie?
John, I made the trek downstairs into the bomb shelter and then came back upstairs. And indeed, all the journalists who were in this hotel when it happened, and most of them were because there had been a series of staff meetings, they are safe downstairs in the bomb shelter. No one is being permitted outside the hotel. I know for a fact, CBS News, if you're wondering, I saw with my own two eyes Larry Doyle, and we go way back to our days at CBS in Washington. He's fine. I saw Alan Pizzi. He was sitting on the floor sipping a glass of something. He seemed quite content. And there's a young Finn chap who said he worked for CBS. I think he does radio. He's fine. Everybody is safe. We know you're worried about us, and we're concerned about ourselves, but everybody is safe. Peter, you look like you want to say something.
I simply want to say, Bernie, that this lull has lasted about 25 minutes now. No aircraft fire, no bombing. So it looks like this first phase is over, and we'll get back to you when it all starts again.
Okay, thanks, Peter Arnett. John Holloman, you want to say anything before we throw it back to our colleagues?
I just want to look out the window one last time and make sure that it is as quiet as it seems to us. There are a few air bursts out here, but there's no anti-aircraft. I mean, there's nothing loud and noisy that we're hearing, and we don't feel any vibrations from outside. So I think it's probably safe for us to let the rest of the network broadcast a little bit tonight. From Baghdad, for Peter Arnett and Bernard Shaw, it's John Holloman. We'll be here if you need us.
Compelling reporting, gentlemen. Thank you very much. It's coming up on 5 o'clock in the morning in Baghdad, and behind that, not too far, will be light. President Bush is going to address the nation shortly, within 12 or 13 minutes, and the lull that they're talking about having lasted 25 minutes may well continue until that is over. Also, we're expecting a briefing from the Secretary of Defense and Joint Chiefs Chairman Colin Powell at the Pentagon following the President's remarks. Now let's go to Norfolk, Virginia. An awful lot of ships carrying the planes that were in the air over Baghdad sailed out of Norfolk. Tom Mentir is there with those who stayed behind and with this report.
There are 35,000 Navy servicemen that have departed from Norfolk for the Persian Gulf. We are at the First Baptist Church of Norfolk, where just a few moments ago, the Reverend here made the announcement to a packed congregation. There was a concert going on inside. Joining us is Colleen Jackson. Colleen, your husband, Kevin, is a lieutenant commander, and he is aboard the Saratoga. Tell me what thoughts went through your mind as the Reverend made the announcement. Did you think it would come tonight?
No, I didn't think it would come tonight, and I didn't think it would hit quite so hard. I knew that there were airplanes launched. I don't know if he's one of them. I'm scared. I can't think of a better place to have been tonight than to have been in church.
The church has a support system where they will contact everyone and make sure that people are not alone who are members of this church. Is it a good system? Does it help?
Yes, it does help, and I have my own support system of my friends from this church. They're making sure that no one will be alone tonight. They're making sure that everyone that needs to have a support, a shoulder to cry on, a friend to pray with. They're just the most wonderful people to be associated with right now.
Will you watch the president tonight?
Yes, I probably will, just to see if there's any information that I can find at all about what's happening with my husband and with the men in his squadron.
If you could talk to the president right now, what message would you send to him?
That I believe in him, that I'm praying for him, and to just bring our men home as quickly and safely as he possibly can.
Colleen Jackson, thank you very much. I know this is a very difficult time for you. Thank you. So it is one of the Navy wives, and there are 35,000 of them here in Norfolk, Virginia tonight. They're all waiting for some type of word. I'm Tom Mentir, CNN, reporting live from Norfolk, Virginia.
Thanks, Tom. They, too, are among the brave, of course, all across this nation. Let's return now to Baghdad and our three correspondents.
Thanks, David. Yeah, we're here, and it's very quiet outside. There still are an occasional flash of light off to the south of our location, far in the distance. There have been no big blasts in the recent past. No signs of anti-aircraft fire right now. No sounds of jets overhead. It's an eerie stillness that we talked about earlier in the day. Bernie Shaw is here now.
I just want to make this observation. The President of the United States is coming up to address his nation and the world very shortly. And that we are on the air means that the government of Iraq, its ears are wide open, and it will be listening to President Bush very closely. We told you earlier in the week that the Information Ministry had received its own satellite dish, and prior to that, the Foreign Ministry had it. We've got to run. Somebody's knocking on the door. John and I are going to hide. Peter, here.
Yes, this is Peter Arnett signing off for a minute, and I'll see what the action is outside.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We assume that's not the fuller brush salesman. Let's go to Robert Vito. He's standing by now on the west coast of the United States at San Diego, another important naval base. Robert.
Well, I'm at an apartment complex in San Diego, and I've spent the last few hours with several wives whose husbands are serving aboard ships in the Persian Gulf. And we've all been glued to the television set watching CNN, mesmerized by what we've seen and by what we've heard. And it's been an emotional time for these ladies as they held hands and they prayed and had these feelings that I'll let them tell you about. Denise, what was your feeling, your reaction as you watched the events unfold?
I was scared, frightened for my husband, for the guys on his ship.
and for the Iraqi people, because it's come to this, you know. This crazy man has brought us this far. I back my husband up. I'm very proud of what he does and who he is and where he's at right now. But I'm also scared because I want him home.
If you had a moment to talk to the president, what would you say to him, the president of the United States?
To get it done and over with as quickly as possible. I'd like to see Saddam Hussein brought in front of the UN Council and tried. That's the way I feel about it. This man shouldn't be walking free. I think he ought to be tried for what he's done and what he's put the Iraqi people as well as the United States and all the countries that are over there through.
Thank you, Denise. Kay, could you just come up? Kay Hunter is a lady who a lot of the wives who have husbands on ships lean on for support and help. What are your feelings?
I am very, very deeply concerned for all the people over there. We have to be strong together because it's our strength and our support of one another that is going to get us through this. And it's because of this group here and lots of groups like this all over the United States with the parents and the wives and the children that are going to help the families get through this. And we are here and we love them all and we're 1,000% behind the military. And Mr. Bush, get them over there and get it over with and get our husbands home.
Thank you. I know these are tough times. I'm going to ask Charlotte. Charlotte, could you just come over here and just share a moment with us and tell me your thoughts.
I'm very upset right now, of course, but I back up my husband 100%. I just want it over with and send him home.
Did you support the action?
I feel that they did what they had to do. And I feel sorry for all the people over there that lives are going to be lost. And I think Hassan should have to pay for this. I think he should not get away with what has happened here.
Thank you, Charlotte, for sharing your thoughts with us. So the feeling here is, of course, like elsewhere, that the war will be over soon. Robert Vito reporting live from San Diego.
Bye. Shortly, I'd like to point out first that a senior administration official has told CNN that no ground attack has occurred at this point. We repeat, no ground attack is underway. Australian warships have been authorized, 3 of them, to assist in the multinational force arrayed against Iraq to free Kuwait. The mission of President Bush tonight, which he will address the nation on in less than 5 minutes, is simply to free Kuwait. Let's go now to Doug James and get his report from Amman. Doug.
We understand that Jordan's King Hussein is currently, like many other people, watching CNN to see the latest developments from Iraq and Kuwait. So far, the people here have been told very little. There was a radio announcement approximately 1 hour ago giving them the bare details. They'll have to wait until 10 o'clock local time in the morning to get more information. With us at the moment is Kamal Abu Jabbar, a Middle East expert who's been following the Gulf crisis from the very beginning. And I wonder, sir, what you think is going through King Hussein's mind at this very moment?
I think what's going through his head right now is sadness and a terrible shock that in the final analysis something could not have been worked out in a decent way. That while President Bush is speaking about free Kuwait, why can't he speak about free Palestine? And I think that is what is going through his mind at this moment.
Would he have been taken by surprise, as many others have, with the nature of the attack this evening, the quickness of the attack this evening?
Yes, I think so, very much so. I don't think anybody in the whole world, anybody in his right mind expected this kind of reaction by the United States. I still believe that there was room for talk, and I am puzzled, like I'm sure His Majesty is puzzled at this moment. Why couldn't the United States have talked to Iraq in a meaningful and in a human manner?
What reaction do you think he'll have tomorrow? Will he have more to say in the morning?
His Majesty, yes, of course he will have to say. I'm sure of that, yes.
As you know, the country is in the middle of Iraq and Israel. This must be a primary concern of his at the moment.
Of course. I mean, you know, we have the Israeli army to our west that is armed to the teeth with all kinds of ugly weapons and willing and ready to use them at any moment.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. This is Doug James reporting live from Amman, Jordan.
Thank you, Doug. The President is going to speak in about 3.5 minutes. We return now to Baghdad and our 3 correspondents there until then. Bernie Shaw.
David, I just want to explain to you and our viewers what happened. There was a knock at the door, and we had to scramble. I had to go to my hiding position under the table, but we're back here, and we're standing by. I had indicated that, in my opinion, we will be watching very closely and listening to what the President has to say. I was reporting that the information and foreign ministries can receive CNN. They will be watching and listening. And Peter Arnett, John Holloman, I'm going to be listening for signals from the President of the United States to Saddam Hussein.
One more thing before we go to the President. We just had another fairly loud blast on the outside, which was visible as a white flash in our windows. We'll stay here, and after the President's done, we'll give you an update on what happened while he was speaking. Peter? No, okay, we'll go back to Atlanta now.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We will be back to you. Perhaps another wave beginning. We have been informed that there will be more, possibly more air attacks tonight. The President's about to speak to the nation, and let's go to the White House and our senior correspondent, Charles Bierbauer. Well, he'll be with us shortly. The President has been described earlier this evening as expectant but calm and resolute, and he has said that this mission is to free Kuwait. Charles is ready now. Charles, come in.
David, President Bush, as you indicate very shortly, the speech anticipated. Perhaps we will get a little more detail as to just what it is that he has set in motion here. We know that he has been in contact with a number of his allies in this mission. One of them, the Australian Prime Minister, Mr. Hawke, has indicated he's received a call and ordered Australian ships to go into action as well. We do not have broad detail yet as to just how international this operation may be. I have heard some reports that the British are involved on the Kuwaiti side of the equation. Perhaps we will get more detail, actually more likely out of the Pentagon on that. President Bush, in a speech that he's been working on himself for the past 2 to 3 weeks, in fact, probably going back to his Christmas holiday up at Camp David, where he pretty much formulated his ideas and his final decisions on what he was going to do. We will hear an address of about 10 to 12 minutes in length, and as I say, it's one that we were told that he has worked on and pretty much written himself. David?
I heard, Charles, that there were actually 4 drafts, that a lot of thought has gone into this speech, and it is a delicate one. Perhaps it is one of the continuing diplomacy that was cut off by what he called the stiff arm from Saddam Hussein. Incidentally, Charles, we can hear some voices in the background behind you. Are the demonstrators still there?
There are still demonstrators in Lafayette Park, as there have been for the past several days. They have grown and diminished in numbers throughout the days, and as the weather got better and got worse, but there has been something of a constant vigil over there. It is within earshot if the President is normally listening, or if he's outside, as he has been